Welcome to Saturday Evening Chats. This is episode 31. Tonight we have Mr. Ozark Yeoman with us. Welcome.
Que pasta or something like that.
I know we're going to discuss the Constitution. We're going to read some of the Constitution, discuss amendments and everything. I think the poor conservative is going to be in as soon as he gets done with some of the stuff he's got going on. Foss is running a little late, so he'll be here. So I guess let's jump into this and kind of start discussing. Now, Ozark, do you want to just jump right into the 25th Amendment, since that's what Miss Nancy Pelosi is bringing forth, threatening to try to get Trump out of office with this week?
Sure, yeah. Now, I have not been extremely well read. I hadn't really heard that brought up since I was in school, and I had to scratch my head. But I'm only going on what I've heard secondhand, right? So, anybody check what I'm saying here. From what I understand, anyway, you have to get the vice president to agree to it. I believe it's Congress who initiates it, but it has to be passed, I think, with a 2/3 majority, ruling the president incompetent, and then you have to get the vice president to agree to it. That basically gets him out of power for 4 days. At the end of 4 days, the Congress has to pass another resolution by 2/3 majority and then get the vice president to go along with it. Now, my thought is, even if that they can obviously never have that done on Trump, but both Tim Pool and Rush Limbaugh, were both pretty credible sources, have said that no, they're actually planning to use it. Nancy Pelosi waved it in front of the media. No, they're actually planning to use that on Biden. And apparently, Biden isn't even in on it. He's clueless. And so the way he answered a question about packing the Supreme Court in front of the media, I mean, it was like, wow, it's gotten to a whole new level of a lack of confidence from Biden. He's really going senile.
So, the 25th Amendment, Section 1. In case of the removal of the president from office or of his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. Section 2. Wherever there is a vacancy in the office of the vice president, the president shall nominate a vice president who shall take office upon confirmation by the majority vote of both Houses of Congress. Section 3. Whenever the president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, and until the transmits to them a written declaration to the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the vice president as acting president, which was what they were hoping was going to happen when he went into Walter Reed. Was that he would then turn over, presidency while he was dealing with the coronavirus. But he never did that because they would have never allowed him to become president again. They would have blocked it and kept Pence as the president.
That's a good thought. I know that he would basically resume his powers in 4 days unless the Congress voted again. And yeah, I think once they get that second vote, that's when they make Pence president for good. But that I would think you'd want Donald Trump to be president. I mean, from a strategy standpoint, because at least as far as being personable, I mean, people kind of love Pence.
Yeah, and if you watch the Pence Harris debate, Pence destroyed her with kindness.
Oh man, he totally did. Not only dropped facts, but then dropped facts while being nice. And she was trying to, show these fake human emotions that she tries so hard to do, kind of like Hillary, and that she's not really capable of. And it was almost cringy to watch, but in a way, I really enjoyed it. So literally, the only resort they had left was saying that he was being domineering because he's a man.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump in and welcome the audience real quick. So first of all, we have PCC Kid out in the audience. Welcome. Rob D, the New York Outcast. He's hit and miss because he's over at a festival that's being held in PA this weekend. Poor Conservative. Mad Sexy is out in the crowd. Gun-loving Grandpa. Mr. M. Gabriel. Gun Hobo 62. Which that's the first I've seen him out in the crowd, so welcome. Guns and Barbecue is out there. So yeah, dealing with, there's a lot to the 25th Amendment that, like, my thoughts on what Nancy is doing is, let's throw this out there. Let's, irritate a bunch of the conservatives and everything. And then if Biden's elected, they're going to go after him and use the 25th to remove him. And then we'll get Harris. And then Pelosi's hoping that Harris will nominate her, to become the vice president, is what her thoughts and delusion of grandeur is.
Which I think that's exactly why and I say they, for real, I think that's why they picked Kamala Harris. Because my first thought was, my goodness, why would they pick somebody who's so impersonable and has proven that they're so sleazy? But it makes perfect sense. She has literally thrown her old boss under the bus before, after she had, adult relations with him while he was married just to get a position. Then she threatened to have him arrested if she ever caught him jaywalking in San Francisco. So she literally has a proven history of throwing her old boss under the bus. I think that's why they picked her.
Yeah, but the Democratic Party, you have to win. Not only do you have to win the African American, the black vote, but you've got to win the Latino vote if you're going to have any kind of a chance. As her AG, she did so much to, lock them up and violate all their constitutional rights, keeping them in prison longer than their prison terms. Why would you think you're going to win them over?
I think literally, I think this is my thoughts. They think they can get away with it. For one thing, Kamala Harris has sold out a lot to big interest on Wall Street, stuff like that. So apparently they're thinking, maybe she can win over some of the more Wall Street and free market type people who are socially liberal. But then at the same time, they're thinking that literally just by virtue of the fact she's a woman and she's a minority, and she's from California, claims to be elected, she'll automatically win over all that vote. They think that, sure, they will dislike her, but she thinks that they hate Trump so much, that there's no way they could possibly vote for him. I think they got it wrong, because statistics have been showing that Trump has been actually very largely growing, especially in the Hispanic population. And philosophically, I can tell you one reason why I think, because of this whole critical theory, what a lot of people don't understand about it is it's saying that if you are, I know this sounds horrible, but this isn't my words, okay? This is literally what this theory says. That if you are not white and you are successful, you are a beneficiary of the racist system, and therefore you are racist. Hispanic people are very hardworking. They're becoming very successful in this country, and they're starting to realize, wait a minute, this is throwing them under the bus as well. And like you said, they're not stupid. They are seeing that. And then Joe Biden's embarrassing Despacito moment, it was such a pathetic level of pandering that it's almost like it would be an embarrassment to vote for him at this point.
Yeah. So we have Patriot in the Dark out in the crowd. Welcome. And the first president of the United States, George Washington. He's out in the crowd. So, on both debates, I watched Telemundo and was keeping track of their Twitter poll on both debates. So when President Trump and former Vice President Biden were debating, Trump took 66% of the Latino Twitter vote. Where when Pence and Harris were at it, Pence took 73 or 77% of the Latino vote.
I think that's because they see it as like a spectator sport. And I grew up in a neighborhood with a ton of Guatemalan, Mexican dudes. We played ball. We played basketball, football all the time. I think that's something that they respect, is the fact that he kind of comes across like a boss.
Yeah. And they're not pandering to them. They're just showing what they're doing. And, a lot of them respect what they did to the NAFTA. When they did away with NAFTA and replaced it with a more beneficial for everybody plan and brought more jobs back to the United States, which also the factories that decided to stay in Mexico now fall under kind of U.S. law, where they have to actually pay them a respectable earnings. Unlike what they were being, the reason why a lot of the companies moved down, to Mexico and stuff, was because they could get them for a lot less money.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Hispanic immigrants are here for work. They're here to succeed. And people also take for granted, like all my old neighbors growing up, they were very, very socially conservative. Very. That's something else that they take for granted. And the whole NAFTA deal, apparently, it killed small farming and business down in Mexico. So by Trump doing away with that, by helping North American jobs and getting rid of the whole thing that hurt jobs for their family members back down in Mexico, Guatemala, the countries they come from, media is not, and the fact that the media is silent about that and won't even talk about it, that is, imagine that if you're not originally from this country, you come here, and then all of a sudden, and you hear Trump constantly talking about how bad the media is and how biased they are, and then sure enough, they don't talk about this issue that's very relevant. That's going to be a huge eye-opener.
Yep. So we have Walter Davis out in the crowd. Welcome. So yeah, let's and one of the main, we're bringing in the Constitution. We're discussing the Constitution of the United States and everything. It's not just that it's election time. If you want to really get into, us in the 2A community, we don't really seem to like to discuss it or really seem to educate ourselves on a hell of a lot of it. I mean, but when you're doing criminal activities, you can almost recite every bit and piece of it so that because okay, well, if they violate a single hair of one of my constitutional rights, I'm walking on everything.
Yeah, and I've kind of been there. I've lived in the rough neighborhoods. I've been pulled over. I've been patted down. I fit the description, and so as far as that whole street lawyer thing, I should be better educated on it. Again, it's been like one of those things where it's been 10 years since I've really taken a deep dive into all of them, especially when it comes to like Eighth Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, no self-incrimination, First, Second. Those are the ones that I'm pretty well versed in. I guarantee I'm really lacking in knowledge of the others.
Yeah, and so I wasn't the greatest of kids, and I've discussed it many times on my channel and on other channels that when I was a kid, I got in a lot of trouble. I committed some felonies. I lost all my rights, and it cost me quite a bit of money to get my rights back. On average, it's about a $5,000 investment if you want to get your rights back.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think it's so messed up that a lot of felons, either one or two things, either they're nonviolent felons who shouldn't be denied the basic right of personal protection, or two, they probably shouldn't in the first place. That's an excellent case in point of how so many things these days are considered felonies that are just ridiculous. They shouldn't. I mean, if they need to come up with a separate, if it's okay, it's not the same as a little misdemeanor, maybe it's serious, but it's not a violent felony, come up with a new class of crime to call it. Come up with something different. But this whole two-tier system in the justice system, I think, is just messed up, and it's gotten really bad.
Well, I don't agree with the Yankee a whole lot, but on the 2A side of it and some of the criminal side of it, I do kind of agree with the way he just talks about. One, if you can't be trusted to own a firearm, if you're so violent that you cannot be trusted to ever own a firearm again, why are we allowing you to walk the streets?
Exactly. That means you can't be trusted. So we're going to give him a license and let him drive a car? We're going to let him. This is something I find astounding. And I'm not saying that we should do this. I'm not saying you should have background checks for alcohol or anything. I'm just kind of pointing out the hypocrisy here. I've literally known people with 3, 4, 5 DUIs. And whether they're driving without insurance or license, I don't know. But they drive down to the convenience store, walk up to it, buy as many booze as they want, turn around and walk out, and there's no background check. But the state makes so much money off that revenue, and such a high percentage of the population enjoy alcohol, usually responsibly, that people would lose their minds if that was required. The same with guns and ammo.
Yeah. And so, one, we need to revamp our justice, our criminal, like prisons and stuff. We really need to reform them because they're supposed to be there to, teach you, what you did wrong and help you become ready to become a better member of society when you get out. Not just a little hotel stay. But now it's all for profit. They don't care. They're just going to let you sit in there because they're going to make a hell of a lot of money on your ass sitting in there. If we reformed it where there was a minimum amount of time that you're going to do, no matter what, but there is zero maximum amount of time. So, say you rob a convenience store, and okay, you're going to do 3 years in prison minimum. Now, if you don't complete the program, you don't do everything you're supposed to do. You don't start, and start getting them jobs while they're in prison and everything, teaching them, how to, trades and stuff like that, so they can actually, when they hit the streets, become a better active member of society and everything. Then once they're out, if they don't want to complete all the stuff that they need to do, they're just going to sit in there until they either complete it or, unfortunately, they cease to be a member of this world. They die. And that would be their choice on how they want to go about it. If they want to be institutionalized and stay there for the rest of their life, let them. That's their choice. It comes under the freedom of choice. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Me too. I think one big thing that's wrong is what have we all been hearing with this pandemic? And it's the same with the justice system. I promise there's a correlation here. They always say, talk to the experts, talk to the experts. Problem is, when you get a bureaucrat like Fauci, who actually hasn't even seen, he did a horrible job apparently handling the AIDS deal, and he hasn't even seen a patient in I think 30 years. You've been sitting in a government office, you are very myopic. Your view on life is extremely limited. Expertise as it may be, and at least when it comes to diseases, but he doesn't understand the economy. He doesn't understand the negative health effects that people are going to have when they're locked down for months on end, and what's going to happen with people's health when they can't see the doctor because of COVID. The side effects become much, much worse than the supposed cure from the so-called experts. Well, the whole justice system, when it comes to sentencing and evaluation, is run completely and is completely referred to so that the judges, the prosecutors, the system can wash their hands of it. It's referred to criminologists and psychologists and sociologists. These are literally the people who wrote the books on the whole critical theory. It's based in cultural Marxism. And one major thing it's completely lacking, even in the counseling and the psychological evaluation, it is missing personal responsibility. Everything that happens to somebody is because it happened to them. It looks at it as a disease. And I'm not an expert. I'm not a licensed counselor or anything. I have worked in ministries. I went to seminary for this. I did work in ministries, working with people who got out of jail, and I saw what the real problems are. And one thing I've seen that's so messed up, they base everything off of a person's skin color. And then they look at, because that's what critical theory is. It sees everything in society, every disparity is a so-called quote-unquote power struggle because of us, because of the color of our skin. And when you blame the wrong thing, the problem is now you ignore what the real problem is. These people created the problems in the first place. And just for instance, when you test somebody, when you evaluate them and you assign a label to them, and it has absolutely nothing to do with personal responsibility, you are never going to rehabilitate them. And they tried rehabilitating. They tried this. But the problem is that the critical theory that it's based on, the criminologists who come up with this stuff, they're the ones who don't know anything. And this is a theory of mine, and I've really been trying to push it with my local legislature. I came across the fact it's so little, nobody notices it, but I realize I think this is one of the biggest things that's wrong with the criminal justice system. Well, almost everybody, and I'm sure G23, if you've been through the justice system, you've seen this before. People who were raised in a broken home, especially without the dad around, they are exponentially, in other words, more than 10 times more likely to wind up in the system. They're lost in life. They're masculine energy. They don't know what to do with it. Instead of being productive, they become destructive. They run with the wrong crowd instead of getting a job. When they were little kids, they weren't given a book and taught how to read, so they don't develop critical thinking. They're already starting off behind in education. So the way society is built, you don't fit in because of that, so you fall in with the wrong crowd, with other people that are like you. Well, people who grow up in a household like this have what we call kind of a childhood-based PTSD. In other words, that's just a name for it, but it's basically kind of the rough mindset you grow up with when you come from a broken home. Well, the problem is the side effects when you're an adult. When you have that, it doesn't mean that you're not capable of empathy and not capable of rehabilitation. It just means it's a lot harder, and there's a certain approach that needs to be taken. And you need to look at it from the perspective of taking personal responsibility. That's what Christian counseling does, at least the good ones, the tough ones, not just the ones who hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But now they're diagnosing criminals with what's called antisocial personality disorder. That is the same thing. That's sociopathy. That's psychopathy. That's saying that, they can't be rehabilitated. And not only that, but the vast majority of the therapists who diagnose this, they're scared of that because those people tend to be, by and large, emotional people. Liberals outnumbers conservatives in psychology literally 14-1. They almost dominate the entire perspective of it. So because they're emotional and empathetic, they easily get taken advantage of by these non-emotional, unempathetic people, diabolical, manipulative people. The problem is people who grew up in a broken home have the same side effects, and they take an old, outdated test called the Hare psychopathy test. When they go up for a probation or parole hearing, the first thing that everybody does is they say, well, let's look at the psych test. And they don't tell the inmate that this is what they're looking at. When they ask them the questions, the inmate may legitimately be like, yeah, I want to get out. I want to get into something good. I want a job. Problem is, if they have that diagnosis, part of the side effect is, they're going to be pathological liars. So they don't believe them. So because they misdiagnose these people, they wind up stuck in the system and they never get out and they never get a chance to actually get a real job, build up from the ground up again.
Yep, exactly. And luckily when I got in trouble, I did all mine as a juvenile. None of mine were adult after I turned 18 or anything. I mean, I had a prosecuting attorney who wanted to try me as an adult, but that got kicked down and they were like, nope, that's not happening. So I got lucky there. So I got to welcome Mr. Gizzard Gary's out in the crowd. R4 Mississippi Thunder has joined us. Rich White, Drucifer, and I'm not sure if I had already said Walter Davis, but Walter Davis again. Welcome, everyone. And I see we have a pretty lively discussion going on out in the crowd. So if we get back on the Constitution, we go back to, we'll go back to get into the preamble of it. I'm going to read this real quick. It says, the Constitution of a number of the states having, at the time of their adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers to further declaration and restrictive clauses should be added. And as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure the benefit ends of its institution. So their preamble is all kind of messed up. So I'm reading this off. It's the Constitution or Constitute Project.org. If anyone wants to follow behind I guess I could put a link of it out in the. Let me. Yeah, I'm not finding. So, Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And this here we can get into a real big slippery slope. And welcome, Mr. Kingpin, out in the crowd. So a lot of people will try to fall under, well, it's protected under the First Amendment, but then they want to try to turn around and say, but those scary guns are not protected under the Second Amendment. You know, you can't argue that the First Amendment now is protected under, covers, everything we do on the internet, our text messages and stuff like that, because that all stuff didn't exist when they wrote the Constitution. If you're going to argue that your First Amendment rights can't be violated, but then you turn around and argue that we can then, infringe on your Second Amendment right. No. It all has to apply the same way. It all has to read the same way, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then they try to use an excuse. This is the one I always hear. And even a lot of more conservative people fall for this a lot and say, oh, well, the First Amendment's limited. And then the reason where they say it's limited is completely a false premise. They say, well, you can't yell fire in the theater. Well, the problem with that is that has absolutely nothing to do with freedom of speech. There's a reason, one, they use speech, and two, it is the rights. This is what I've come to say, and other people have agreed that I've talked to. It is unlimited in the context that it is written. When it comes to speech, it uses the word abridged. When you abridge somebody, when you look at the original 1826 Webster's Dictionary, which codified the language at that time, it tells you that it means you cut somebody off from expressing their opinion, or you edit out what they say. So, in other words, forcibly stopping somebody from giving their opinion, that's not the same thing as if you commit an act of fraud, which is what, like yelling a fire in a theater. Your words that you use, that's only part of the action you've done. What you've done is to knowingly create a public panic that you know is going to get people hurt. You're trying to cause people harm. If you have an opinion that there's a fire in the theater, you absolutely have the right to speak up and say that. And nobody can tell you that. Same thing. That's why when it comes to freedom of speech, it says that it can't be abridged. And that's why when it comes to freedom to keep and bear arms, it says infringed. Because in the context it is written, to keep and to bear, and that means obtaining them, how you store them, how you carry them, what you own, that cannot be infringed at all. And that's why it says the right of the people, meaning it's not, locked down in a National Guard on. So in the context it is written, your rights are unlimited.
Yep. If there's anyone out in the crowd that wants to jump on the panel and discuss this with us, let me know, and I will definitely email you a link so you can jump on here. So Walter Davis says, interesting how NYC's de Blasio closed churches, synagogues, and temples, but left Muslim mosques open. Yeah, and a lot of them under the Rona situation have used it to obstruct religious freedom and pick and choose what religious freedom they're going to allow.
Yeah, right now, Cuomo, Cuomo and de Blasio have specifically pointed out the Jewish community and especially the Orthodox Jewish community. I actually talked with a lady in a comment section recently on a story about that. She's actually a member of the Orthodox Jewish community. They're in Brooklyn where they're targeting them. And the interesting thing is there are literally dozens and dozens of, different ethnic communities and just communities in general around New York. Many of them have not been social distancing. Many of them have been going about their daily activity anyway. Many of them have also seen spikes in cases, but they're only going after the Orthodox Jewish community. And it just happens to be they vote for Trump in that community.
Yep, and they were just showing a video a couple days ago of a bunch of the Orthodox Jews out in the center of New York City burning all of their face masks and everything and chanting, "We will not comply."
Yeah, and apparently some guy who didn't like them, he went up and there was this rabbi standing there and he has a whole bunch of kids around him, in their community. Again, these are people who they live together, they work together, they go to the synagogue together, they live their entire lives together within this community. That's one reason why it's so dumb and ridiculous to tell them that they have to isolate from each other. It's the dumbest thing in the world. Their entire lives revolve around being physically close to each other. So this guy walks up to them, surrounded by a ton of kids, and asks them, I can't repeat exactly what he said here. It was on the channel Last Berholt. I put a link on my channel before there. He posts all these videos of riots, protests, everything this had to do with this craziness. This one guy walks up to him, calls the rabbi out by name, surrounded by a bunch of kids, and then asks him something extremely perverted. He says, hey, do you like expletive? And it's something sexual in nature. Well, of course, the rabbi and all the Orthodox people around there, they get mad. And they start yelling, there's kids around here. What did you say? And then he yells it again. So then the rabbi and a few of the other guys, they start yelling, get him out of here, get him out of here. So they literally, they run the guy off. Well, then he cuts the clip to be like, look, the community here ran me off for trying to film them. They're dangerous. I'm like, yeah, if you were yelling something perverted like that around my kid too, what he did was he was baiting them. I'm like, yeah, if you were yelling something perverted around my kid too, we'd probably run you off.
Yeah. I don't have kids, but I'm very protective of children and stuff. And yeah, there's certain language you just don't use in front of any child. And thank you, Kingpin, for throwing Ozark's link out in the crowd. For anyone who is not subbed to him, check him out. He does do a lot of great content, and he will definitely make you think. And so when I decided I was going to have a Constitution chat, him and the Poor Conservative were one of the first two that I thought about bringing on, because, they're pretty good at, making you think and making you actually reflect. So thank you again, Ozark, for jumping in.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
So right now, a lot of places have these masks requirements, and they're trying to say, oh, there's zero exemptions. Sorry, you can't do that. You cannot, one, violate the Constitution of the United States. Two, there's a lot of the constitutions of the states that read pretty close to what the Constitution of the United States also says. And three, you cannot violate the ADA. And a lot of people need to start pushing that ADA Act, because one, they can't ask what's your medical reason for not wearing a mask or for not complying with whatever. It's a violation. And if you report it to the ADA, it's a $75,000 fine to the business for the first violation, and a $150,000 fine for every subsequent violation.
And that right there, that's the point, the whole entire point of this mask mandate, I think, because, logically, scientifically, it doesn't make sense. Because even Fauci said at the beginning, masks aren't going to help you. The virus goes right through it. Maybe it creates a slightly smaller cloud of where your breath is than if you weren't wearing a mask. But indoors, it's not going to make that much difference. And the germ literally goes right. The virus will literally go right through it. Now they know it travels on water droplets much further and lasts longer. So the mask ain't going to stop it. And earlier he said, you don't need masks. And now he said, you actually do need masks. But back then we were trying to save them for our medical professionals. I'm like, wait a minute. So either you lied then or you lied now. And both times you said, it's science, don't wear a mask. And then they made fun of people for wearing masks. They tried to stigmatize. Now they stigmatize you for not wearing a mask. Not only that, but it's like, okay, you lied to us. And you let the virus spread. If the masks do work and they're so magical, you let the virus spread that much worse, and you shame people for wearing masks only because you were afraid of the supply to the public, and then you claimed it was science when you lied. Here's the real point of all of it, I think, is it violates, like you said, it violates HIPAA laws. It violates people's privacy laws. Some people get claustrophobic when they have a mask up over their face. Some people get shortness of breath, excited delirium. People that, if you've ever gone through handcuff training or restraint training, they tell you about, what they call excited delirium, when people will get worked up in medical conditions. If they have a panic attack, if they have an underlying medical condition, they can die. And if you're the one detaining them when that happens, something happens to them, that responsibility is on you. So it's like they're violating people's rights. They're setting it up to violate people's privacy rights and violate people's HIPAA rights for the sake of, quote unquote, public safety. They're getting ready to do that in order to violate people's medical rights and medical privacy rights in the future. Because now they can say, for a virus with over 99% survival rate, and most people that are walking around in public who know they're not vulnerable, they're like 1 in 10,000. And you're making them wear a mask. It's completely illogical and nonsensical. And they're saying that that's doable for the sake of public safety, and that's enough to violate your your privacy rights. So they're doing this in order to have more government power in the future. To say, you have, on one end, they'll say, you have privacy rights, you have HIPAA law rights. And then they'll turn around and say, but you violated it for the sake of public safety.
Yep. And like when you were bringing up Fauci, they've lied like 3 times, because now the virus has gained intelligence and can go around a mask.
Yeah. Now it's going around. We just magically discovered this. No, they knew this. They knew this this was like, I learned this in basic biology in like 8th grade. And same thing in AP Chem when I was in high school. It's like, if we know this in college level chemistry, I know they know this. And it's bull. And it's also how they magically flipped a 180 once the Democrats discovered that actually if they lose a lot of mail-in votes, Democrats are way, way more likely to mail-in vote than Republicans. So now all of a sudden when they discover, wait a minute, we're losing a lot of mail-in ballots, it might actually hurt the Democrats more than the Republicans, and Republicans are the ones who aren't scared and tend to show up to vote. All of a sudden, Fauci and the other cohorts and them out there jumped right on, oh, yeah, it's safe. And literally the logic they used was, well, we go to Walmart. If it's safe to go to Walmart and we can do that safely, then we can go vote in person. We can do that safely. But now the problem is you've got literally millions of business owners across the country and churchgoers saying, hey, wait a minute, you can use the logic and say it's okay to go vote now. And it was okay to show up in a massive protest that turns into a riot and spit all over each other while they're screaming at the cops. But I can't run my small business. It's not essential. That's why this selective use of it's science by the so-called experts, I'm telling you, when we lose our rights, we're going to lose them to the experts because experts do not care about people's rights.
Yeah, and I've been saying since the beginning that this is all a test run to socialism. And what can the government control? What can they force you to comply? And what kind of population are willing to comply?
Well, now they're finding out, and I guarantee you they're taking notes.
Yep. And so, it's their science experiment that they're using. Just like if they take control with power, why is both Kamala Harris and Biden refusing to answer the question, will you leave the Supreme Court at 9, or are you going to add more seats to stack the Supreme Court? Why won't they answer that?
Yeah, and actually Biden just had one of his little faux pas. I'm trying to come up with some more clever name for it, but one of his, old man slip-ups. And I try not to mock that because, senility is a sad thing, but he's a politician and he's running for office. So, you're running for office and you put yourself up there knowing your health problems, that's fair game as far as the public office goes. But anyway, a slip-up he had recently was they asked him that, are you going to pack the Supreme Court? When the leftist media asks a question, that's when it's like they've been backed in a corner. It's like, we're going to have to ask this or we're just going to be, that much seen as propaganda. So they asked him and he said, oh, no, you can't. He was almost like, oh, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get me to tell you what my strategy is. He literally said, oh, no, I'm not going to tell you that because then if I tell you that, then it'll be all over the front page of your newspapers tomorrow. And I'm not going to tell you that until after the election. And then he turned around and walked away, almost like he was proud of himself, like he was patting himself on the back. It was like he's walking back to his handlers like, yeah, I did good. And I wish I could have seen the press people because I bet they were probably smacking their foreheads. The only answer, and Kamala won't answer it either, the only answer that it could possibly be is, yes, they're going to pack the court, and they know that 70% of all Americans are against it. And so that's the only possible answer.
Well, like Rick said yesterday, Biden came straight out and said, the American people have no right to know if we will stack the courts. Wait, what do you mean we have no right? This is a government of the people by the people. This is not a, monarchy. This is not a dictatorship. You are not a king. You are not.
And for your average Joe out there who's tired and working 40 hours a week like all the rest of us, Trump had better take that clip and then cut to the clip of him saying, no, you'll run in your newspapers tomorrow if I answer, so I'll match till after the election. It better take those two clips together. It better blast the airwaves with ads with that nonstop from now till November. And not only that, but he'd better then throw a clip at the end. If they pack the Supreme Court, They will add this many more justices that think like them, and there will never be any more freedom in this country ever again. They will have whatever they want by judicial power, and these are interpretive judges who interpret the law the way they see fit and change the law by a court ruling. So say goodbye to your freedom, and it'll basically be a one-party rule permanently at that point. And if Trump was smart, he would put that in an ad and hammer it from now till November. It better.
Yep. And then I guess Rich, I haven't heard this part, but Kamala said today that she is open to stacking the court.
Well, I'd say to Kamala, thank you for saying that. One of the side effects of I think everybody has some type of personality disorder. You know, we all fall into personality types.
Oh yeah.
The negative side effects of Kamala is what they call a lack of inhibition. Sometimes they can't help but say what they're thinking. Like, did you ever see that clip? I think I showed it. I kind of made a funny deal out of it, but when I showed that they picked Kamala for VP and why it was such a horrible idea, she was up there bragging about when she was DA, bragging about arresting parents for their kids not going to school, and she bragged about it in front of people, and she was laughing. Because in her twisted mind that lacks the basic human decency understanding, she doesn't understand how it's going to resonate with people. So she's going to say something that she thinks is going to get her a pat on the back, or that she thinks people are going to be with her on. She doesn't understand fear and trepidation. And so she just right out there and said, yeah, I'm open to. And then what she's going to do is when she's asked about it later, she'll say, oh, I didn't say I'm going to do that. I just said I was open to it, you know. And then the media will just cover for her. And that's one nice thing about them knowing they got the media on their side is they slip up and talk like that way too much. I'm glad she said that, though.
So it's like we go into the debate. Did anyone else catch on the fracking question where she said, yes, Biden admitted day one that fracking is going to be ended. And then later, when Pence was doing his response to it, she was like, no, we never said that we were going to end fracking. Wait a minute, just 2 minutes ago you said it was going to be ended.
Yep. Yeah, she didn't get away with that one either. He hammered her in that debate. I mean, he just hammered her, and it was the perfect. I was even thinking going into it, I'm like, the only thing that will make Pence lose this is if he plays too much of a nice guy, like every conservative has in the past. But I honestly think, you know, maybe Trump has rubbed off on Pence a little bit in a good way. He doesn't play the nice guy. He decided not to play the nice guy. I mean, the thing is, they're going to call you names. The left has gotten to the point now where everybody's sexist, everybody's racist, everybody's everything else and a dog. And they're going to call you that no matter what. So don't try to placate them, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and we start a lot of the Democrat Party of lately. I'm going to say of lately, not always, but of lately. They want to try to think that they are smarter than every single person that are out there, you know, and that they can, you know, use like double talk or whatever and say one thing and then turn around and say another thing, and then you're making all this up and try to make people seem like they are like insane.
I know what they've retreated so far into their own bubbles. You know, this is why I still watch so much like CNN, NBC, all this every once in a while to keep my head balanced, because they retreated so far into their own bubbles they think it's going to be acceptable to people in general to actually go out there and run with this narrative, as insane as it literally is. It reminds me of like a bunch of teenagers in a basement getting wasted, come up with an idea, like I saw this when I was a kid, they'd be like, hey, dudes, let's go ride around town. And then, one of us is going to pull our pants down and we're going to moon everybody. And everybody else is like, yeah, that's an awesome idea. Well, later on when the little church lady's screaming and the cops wind up knocking on their door, the public perception of what they thought was cool in the basement is not exactly working out for them.
Or how many of us thought that mailbox baseball was a great idea?
I thought that sounded like so much fun, but at the same time, it was one of those things that I got in trouble in different ways. So I didn't want to get in trouble in that way. I decided to exercise my destructive streak in other ways that wouldn't get me in trouble as much.
Oh, we played mailbox baseball back when I was a kid, and we got caught, and the police held us there till a postal inspector could show up. And luckily, they did not charge us. But the postal inspector explained to us that even though a private person, buys their own mailbox or whatever to accept mail, it is still considered part of the postal property due to the fact that there could or could not be mail inside of there, and you can be charged federally for damaging that property.
Yeah, I've had literally every one of my family members have worked for the post office. I'm literally the only one that has not. And things were getting pretty crazy at the post office by the time I came along. But I was the young family. But them postal inspectors, man, they mean business. The FBI apparently initially learned from the postal inspectors. And so much of what they do is like very forensic that they go hard and they have the full force of the federal government behind them. Like one of the oldest agencies in the country. And it makes me wonder, like technically, does that mean when we're concealed carrying with our CCW on our property and then we walk up and grab our mail out of our mailbox, when we reach our arm in the box, are we technically committing a felony?
Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of a gray area, because depending upon your state, and you got to look at and everything, certain post offices will allow you to open or conceal carry inside their federal building, depending upon the state that you're in. You would think it would be a unified front because it is a federal building on federal property, not state. But a lot of them will defer back to what the state says.
Yeah, I would think that, I know on my local ones, where I live it's pretty much as pro-2A as any region in the country you could possibly hope to live, period. Even our local sheriff, literally about every other question, would you enforce an unconstitutional gun law? Would you, even the last one that was retiring, he was iffy on constitutional carry because he was making the revenue off of concealed carry permits. So he didn't want to lose that revenue. So when he was a little bit hesitant when we passed constitutional carry, the locals' attitude was like, all right, you're old, time for you to retire. And sure enough, he retired the next year, and we got a better sheriff in there. And other than that, he had been a good sheriff. But that's one of those, it's one of those gray area things. But it's one of those things that if the government ever decides to, that they don't like you, look at the Trump investigation. The Russian collusion hoax. It showed that the FBI is literally allowed to lie to you, whatever they want. But if you lie to the FBI or apparently any federal authority, that's literally a crime. Lying to the FBI, they will charge you with that. There was a journalist, I think called Barrett Brown, He tried to expose a lot of shady stuff that was going on, and kind of Edward Snowden type stuff. And sure enough, they sick the feds on him. He refused to turn over his sources because he's a journalist. It's protected under the First Amendment. They tried all kind of legal things to go after him. And I think he was staying at his mom's house when he was staying in the town where he was from. So he stayed in his mom's house. He kept his laptop in a secure location. Sure enough, when he was out, I think they showed up, inspect it. They couldn't find it, but then they found it later. And his mom said, I don't know where he keeps his stuff. Well, because it was in his mom's house, they brought him in for an interrogation. And then I think the agent threatened to charge his mother with obstruction of justice because the laptop was in her house and she said she didn't know. And she didn't know. So they threatened to go after the dude's mom. And all he was doing was exposing what the government was doing wrong, violating people's privacy. And then apparently what he did was he doxed the agent and the agent's family and their addresses, and he put it all over the internet. and then I think they wound up getting him on that. But, that's just a case in point of, like, if the government decides that they don't like you, that's why I really, really don't like these kind of gray area laws. And it bugs the tar out of me. And I wish, I talk to politicians about it. They're like, nah, well, that never gets prosecuted. I'm like, yeah, until the government decides that they want something on you.
Yep. So we have Mr. Travis T that's just jumped in. Welcome. So, yeah, there's a lot of those gray areas. And I always tell people there's two law enforcement agencies that I am completely scared of, and I will not do anything to screw with them. That's the U.S. Postal Service and the Texas Rangers. They will hunt you down to the day they die, and then the next generation will take over until they get their man. They don't care.
It's true. I mean, they're bulldogs. You hear some of the stories, man. I'm almost surprised that hasn't been made into more, shows and movies and all that. It's like, well, that's the thing when they're exercising their constitutional authority over a justified enforcing crime. I mean, you want to root for that, It's if we could get things more constitutional, I mean, things would really be a whole lot more back to blue in general.
Mm-hmm. So I can tell you a little. So I failed to pay a court fine. It was a speeding ticket, and they turned it over to a collection agency which happened to be based out of Texas. And I sent a postal money order to the company. They sent me a letter saying that I failed to make a payment and that they were going to proceed with court actions. And so I got a hold of them. I'm like, wait a minute, I paid you guys. And we had an argument back and forth. So I went over to the post office and I talked with the postmaster of our local Poor Conservative. I sent it to your email address. There should be a link there. And so it just happened that there was a postal inspector that was right there on site at the time. And so the postmaster said, can you hold for just a minute? I'm going to go grab somebody. And then he brought in a postal inspector, and we discussed what was going on and everything. And they tracked down the money order, and they're like, yeah, we have the money order right here. We have a copy of the money order right here. So they asked if I would call the company in front of them. And I agreed. So I called the company, and the company admitted, again said, no, you have not paid us. And started to threaten me again. And so I was like, you do know that you've sent this through the post office. I'm turning it all over to them. And I hung up. 2 weeks later, I had a full refund and a zero balance apology letter from that company saying, yeah, we're not going to screw with you.
Yeah, because I'd imagine, because they basically, these companies completely go off of, I've had to deal with them too. I've had friends have had to deal with them, and they completely go off of government contracts. And if it turns out that they're hustling the people that owe them, they have basically the power of arrest to threaten you with. So that's especially when the feds wind up sniffing around it, I mean, that's a whole higher level of authority. They could kiss goodbye any government contracts, and I mean, they'd be out of business. So that was a smart thing to do, to go through the post office. Well, I'll tell you what, I think the postal inspectors are going to be busy this November with the election.
Well, that and the post office prides themselves on their money orders. And they will prosecute. And it's not something you want to play around with. If you're defrauding the post office, they don't play. They're not nice.
No, or like anything illegal being sent through the post office either. That's another one where they there was actually a scam that I came across. I was really hurting for a job. I'd been downsized and I was waiting for another job to come through, and it was a long time ago. And this thing, it was had something to do with shipping and reshipping. And I looked it up, and the companies were legit. They had the actual Better Business Bureau rating. I mean, everything about these companies seemed completely legit. But just how much money I could make, something didn't add up with the cost-benefit ratio, I'm like, well, it pays good, but I'm like, how could they be making a profit at the rate I'm working? So I called up. I couldn't think of who else to call. So then I thought, well, yeah, the postal inspectors, because a lot of it had to go through the post office. So I called up the postal inspectors, and immediately when I started to describe, they hadn't heard of the company, but as soon as I started to describe what it was that was happening, the way they worked, they go, oh, yeah. They're like, that it's stolen property, it's stolen goods. They're like, do not sign up for it. Don't let them send anything to you. She's like, and I was careful. I didn't give them any of my personal information or anything. I pretty much thought, yeah, this looks like a scam. I'll check it out and see, but it automatically looks like a scam in the first place. If it is a scam, then, I'll try to get it taken care of with the cops. So hopefully nobody more gullible will fall for this. Sure enough, the postal inspector, she called me up and said, yeah, they do this. It's stolen property. They'll get you to, they add different layers in there, and then they will eliminate themselves as being culpable. And when even if you didn't know it was stolen property or anything, when you accept it, it's at your address, because I had physical facilities where I could store things, basically what it was, I could act as an intermediary in between, which in shipping and receiving, that's nothing unusual. But this particular company, because the payout was just a little bit, it was pretty good. It was on the high end. And then for the types of things I was going to be receiving and selling, okay, these are the types of items that get stolen and shipped a lot. These are the types of items it seems to be pretty good, which means like, where are they getting them from? The overhead just seems a little bit too good, and sure enough, then she wanted to know everything about what companies these were, what they were, what they were doing. And then I told her, I said, if these people try to contact me again, the only thing they owe is my phone number. I said, if they try to contact me again, can I tell them I've called the postal inspectors? And she actually laughed. She said, yeah. She's like, I would love to know if yeah, I would love them to know that that we're on to them. She's like, yeah, that's okay. So sure enough, it was pretty satisfying. They called me back, and they were trying to hassle me. They're like, well, we were going to have a business deal. We were going to have a business arrangement, blah, blah. And I told them, I'm like, all right. I was like, well, actually, I have a phone number for you. I said, you want to write this down? They wrote it down, and then I gave the name. I was like, and by the way, I said, that's a federal extension, just so you know, your call will be recorded. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, it's the postal inspectors. As soon as I said that, she hung up.
Yep. So we had the poor conservative. He's going to try to come back in. So we shall welcome him. Yeah. When dealing with any of those kind of like federal agencies, you kind of really, walking gray lines. It's like, if something sounds like it's a gray area with the federal government, I'm going to try to lean further, off to the one side so that I, try to, CYA, cover your own ass, because you can't trust that they're going to cover your ass for you.
Yeah, no, and they won't. And then, like she said, she's like, well, if you wind up in a storage facility, even if you didn't know about it, she's like, you're going to wind up, getting charged probably a felony for receiving stolen property. She's like, because total value is very quickly going to exceed whatever it is, $500. She's like, and you will get arrested and you will get charged. I was like, well, I said, wait a minute. I said, what about people who are more gullible? I was like, I know, how many guys I know who aren't that they're not, they haven't gotten very far with their education, whatever. They hustle, they do side gigs, they might own a warehouse, something. You know how many people I know that would fall for this? I was like, do people actually get charged? And she's like, well, we try to work with them and we get them to work with us to catch the people. And then I asked her, and this really made me mad. And then I asked her, I'm like, well, okay, so do you get these people, the ones that are gullible, who you could basically threaten with a felony, even though they didn't know they were working with stolen property or anything? They had no way to have any clue. I say, because these people have their business bureau rating. I'm like, I made it so that if there was anything off about it, I could tell a lawyer, hey, look, I've got all this that I looked up and prove these people were legit. What more could I do? I was like, so you basically threaten to charge these people with a felony if they don't work with you to catch the crime ring. And she goes, well, yeah, that's usually what happens. And I'm like, that's dirty. I'm like, I couldn't do that. That's so morally wrong on so many levels.
So, poor conservative, can you hear us now?
For conservative, if you see the part that says Mike, I'll run through it. You might have to hit that.
He dropped out. I know he was having, for some reason, depending on like what headset brand you're wearing and stuff, I have seen where StreamYard kind of can get picky, and depending upon, can you hear us now? You might have to unmute by hitting the microphone button. Are you there? Can you hear us, poor conservative? Try saying something to him, Ozark, see if he can hear you.
Hey, poor conservative, can you hear me? He just said in the chat that he can't hear anything. He said still hearing nothing.
Well, you might try without a headset. Are you there? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you.
So, poor conservative, you might try not having a headset. Maybe if you have just a, if you're on your cell phone, you might just use your cell phone. And
I actually had to take off my headset and just use the plain audio because it was having trouble working with the headset.
yeah, I've had to do that depending upon, you know, one of my Bluetooth headsets that I have. It StreamYard does not like them, and so my like when I would speak, it was so horrible. So that's why I went to when I use my laptop, I have a corded headset from Logitech that I use. It's just a cheap set, nothing fancy. So
Yeah, I got a real cheap set.
Yeah, sometimes those cheaper sets are, work better than some of your more expensive sets.
Yeah, I got one for like $12 at Dollar General. It's called True Wireless, I think, Vibe Sound. These things have actually been perfect. They have a little portable charger. You can plug them in, and they've been excellent.
Yeah, I have a cheap set from Dollar General, but I forget what brand they were. They were like $10, and yeah, that may have been. But mine I like the over the ear, so like more of the muff style, and the sound quality is great. But StreamYard with those seem to be hit and miss. Sometimes they work well, and other times they don't work at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was probably working with the headset, but I was watching a YouTube video at the same time. The weird thing is, if you have the chat going, but then you play a YouTube video in the background, the YouTube video, the sound gets a little more muffled. I think it actually did that on purpose just to let me know the chat was going, though.
Are you here, poor conservative? Can you hear us now? Can you hear us?
When you know these things are made in China.
Right? Almost everything's made in China anymore if it deals with any kind of electronics.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, like even my EDC flashlight, I absolutely love the thing. It's like I really, really wanted to get an American one, but it's like this thing, it was good quality and it was like the only thing I had every little feature I wanted on it. So I couldn't help it. It's like that's the thing. I will buy American if I can buy American, but at the same time, you got to have your needs taken care of. So I think that's more a matter of like, I prefer to buy American, but I really want to see us get our own manufacturing back here first.
Yeah, like I really like the Streamlight because they're made in America and everything. But
okay, yeah, I have heard about that.
But then if you go get with like Olight, you can have a smaller light, rechargeable, and higher lumen count. You know? it's like uh CloverTac just did a video on a nice Streamlight, but it's 500 lumens. You know, I've got my little S1R Baton 2 that's rechargeable, and it's 1,000 lumens. And,
yeah, mine is
go ahead.
mine is a Nitecore NM01, and it's 1,000 lumens. It's small. It's got 3 different settings, and it's USB rechargeable.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like it. And at this point, I'm so addicted to having 1,000 lumens. I really need it for my job, anyway. So job and just other stuff. So the 1,000 lumens, man, it makes life a whole lot easier. You don't even realize how nice it is until you got it.
Yeah, so like, I don't want it to sound like an Olight commercial, but when I can take my EDC light that I keep in my pocket, and I can use the same charger to charge my weapon light, so I don't have to have 5, 6 different chargers running around the house. I've got one for my cell phone. I've got one for my computer. I've got one for my Bluetooth keyboards and mouse. You know, and every single one of them takes a different charger. You're going to run out of outlets just on, if I can run the same charger for multiple different devices, I like that.
Yeah, me too. I used to have the old type of USB. I think it's pretty much the same one they've had for most of the last decade. And that's the one that comes with Nitecore. And then I had just had to get a different cell phone. And it has the type of USB that it's where you can plug it in either way. It's a perfect little oval shape. So I still keep a different charger cord wrapped up for my flashlight. First, I thought it would be annoying, but I just keep it in a go bag. And I don't have to charge my flashlight every day. I just maybe once a week or something, I'll pop it in the cord. And like when I have a spare minute, and that's it.
Yeah. Whoa. C4 Defense says the chargers are different for his Olights. But so like some of the newer chargers, like the blue, the newer ones that you're getting will actually still charge if they're a tail, will play or what it will adapt the charging voltage to what the light is required.
Oh, that's neat.
So like, and if he's talking about like the charger for the S1R Baton 2 is different than the charger for the little i1R. The i1R runs off your old micro USBs versus Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, go ahead.
So like we got Carolina EDC joining in. Welcome, Carolina. How's it going?
What up? What up?
But so, like, my S1R has a flat magnet charger, and so if you have one of their weapon lights that takes the flat magnet charger, you can use the same charger as long as the newer ones will downstep or upstep the voltage is what they're designed to do. So yeah, you can use some of your newer chargers on your older lights, and Olight tells you that. And so I don't know if anyone else has been, but Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Olight is coming out with a pink little I1R. So it's a keychain light. It's the I1R2 EOS, and it's going to be pink. And 100% of the cost of the light is going to be donated to 2 different breast cancer organizations. So they're typically a $20 light. You're going to pick them up for like $15. And that $15 is going to turn around and be split $7.50 a piece to the 2 breast cancer organizations.
That's cool. I think that's a great way to do, like, especially if you've been holding off getting something for a little while, and then, suddenly you see something like that, and it's something you're going to get anyway. That's usually when I'll pull the trigger on something like that.
Yeah. I'll do a lot of stuff to donate for like cancer research, because there's so many people that have been affected by cancer of multiple different kinds. And so I have gotten my head shaved for, one of the radio stations around here was doing every person that got their head shaved, a certain amount of money was being donated to a local breast cancer research charity. And so I was like, you know what? It's just hair. I'll go get my head shaved.
Yeah. And I know a guy, YouTuber recently shaved his beard. I don't think I'd ever seen him without a beard. And he did it for, I think it was a charity for a fallen officer.
Yep. If it's something that you truly believe in, you're going to be willing to, promote it. And so there, yeah.
So talking
So we've been
about
talking
Olight,
a lot of the content. Yeah. It got onto an Olight little conversation for a few minutes. Go ahead, Carolina. What do you got to say about Olight?
Well, now you're talking about Olight. I just did a video on Olight that I'm, matter of fact, uploading right now. So what a coincidence.
I brought up it because of the pink light that's coming out on Thursday.
Yeah, I saw
and that. I'm hoping and praying that I'll be able to be one of the lucky people to get one of the limited edition. So
yeah, those little lights are pretty bright for just how small they are.
Yeah. They got 2 little stages. One's, I think it's like 7 lumens, and then like 150 lumens that's smaller than your pinky.
Yeah, I got one of those. And, well, my wife has it on her keychain. This bright little thing.
Yeah. So let's jump back a little bit more to the Constitution chat. So we all know the Second Amendment, and we all are willing to argue the Second Amendment to people that want to infringe on our rights. That, hey, you can't go after our rights if you're not, say that the Second Amendment doesn't apply to the modern firearms, but yet the First Amendment applies to modern technology. You can't, you know, pick and choose what you want to apply. So let's go ahead and jump on to the Third Amendment, where it says, no soldier shall, in time of peace, be headquartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in manner to be prescribed by law. So, Ozark, you want to give your 2 thoughts on that real quick?
Yeah, that actually, that the reason this was one of the most important ones, especially at that time, and it can still be important today. Man, if this one comes around, we're in trouble. But this actually involved my ancestors. They were in South Carolina at the time. They were landowners, farmers, and the British had a practice. A lot of the South, a lot of the South were still loyalists. Or they were fairly neutral, so they're kind of default loyalists. And they would go around. Of course, they were short on supplies. They didn't know how to live off the land. They didn't know how to hunt. These are very urban soldiers, so they seized the property and the land of landowners and farmers and forced them to supply their troops with food. Back then there was no unemployment. There was no. And the colonies were already being strained by these taxes. They're being forced to buy tea from the East India Trading Company. It was mercantilism. It was the British government was forcing buy this, pay these taxes, whether you could afford it or not. So it's like a family could literally starve to death, because by force of law, the British were allowed to do it. So the Americans thought during the Revolution, they thought to do a similar thing. I think it was it the American General Greene, I think, if I remember right, but his soldiers were hungry. They came across farms. Some of them were loyalists, and they were about ready. They're like, well, we got guns. Let's just take the stuff. We're hungry. And the American general said, nope, that's what the British are doing. We're trying to win the people. Do not do it. So sure enough, a whole lot of loyalists actually became pro-American after that, because the British generals allowed them. And this literally was an eye-opener for the loyalists. Like, wait a minute, that we have absolutely no rights anymore. The government can take anything they want, when they want. And the new American government, despite being poor and hungry, refused to violate our rights because their rights were violated, and they don't want to do the same thing. So that's why it was so important to codify that. And there were, with the Whiskey Rebellion and a bunch of other things, there was especially a lot of fighting around property rights. Back then, property was everything. Property was your wealth. Property was how you made your living. And so it was so important to codify that the government couldn't just take your property.
Yep. So Vanessa, a good point on this. She says, the problem with this is lawmakers make emergency declaration acts that are the law portion of this amendment. But actually, a lot of those emergency declarations and mandates would never stand up in court if people push it. It's the fact that there's so much compliance that they don't fight the system and they don't tie these up in court. And so, yes, emergency declarations, then everyone just, oh, well, this is law. No, it's not. There is not in any single state can they be backed by a, like in Washington, it would be an RCW. In other states, that it's depending upon what your revised code of that state is. They are not issued their own law, designation. Well, if you grab Signal again, Carolina, jump on in.
Yeah, and a lot of local governments especially try to abuse this with eminent domain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you fail to comply and you try to fight back, they're going to go, okay, fine, we're going to push eminent domain. Well, even a lot of eminent domain, you can fight that in court, and then they'll end up either having to pay you for your property that they have seized at fair market value, or they have to return it and pay you a rental fee of that property for the amount of time that they have used it.
Yeah, and you know, this is where like groups like BLM and Antifa and all this is where I always get in conversations with these type folks. Like, you know, you guys are walking around neighborhoods, you say we're gentrified and screaming and yelling and banging people's windows out, attacking them in their homes. I'm like, you guys allowed this to happen. You allowed, you know, if you buy a property, you take care of it, you fix it up because you know one day it's going to be valuable. So you buy it, you hold on to it, you wait, you know, it's your investment. Then here's the problem, though. A much wealthier developer on a local city board knows it's going to be more valuable, so he pulls strings and he gets that seized from you by eminent domain. Oh, well, we'll pay you fair market value. The problem is right now it's junk. That's the whole point of why you bought it, because one day it will be valuable. You know, the neighborhood's improving, they're opening businesses and stuff. And now the wealthier developer who, you know, shafted the little guy, he's using the government to have that happen. They're using the government to use eminent domain to take people's property. And then I tell these people, I'm like, you're mad. You claim, oh, it's racism, it's oppression, and then you're calling for socialism. You know, it's socialism that did this in the first place, knuckleheads. We've been screaming about it for years.
Yep. So welcome, Rob D. How's it going?
Going well. How's it going, guys?
Great. How was the festival? Or
Good.
are you still there?
Going on. Yep, still here. They're doing a concert right now.
Have you gotten to do any fun kind of shooting?
No, I got in the line, but unfortunately I spent too much time in the store and they were kind of ran out of time. So I can come back tomorrow to do some shooting, hopefully. So apparently they have, I believe I was told, MG40s, a few different machine guns, some set up on a truck, some you can just sit down behind with tripods, and all types of other stuff. So
are you going to video it?
Probably coming back tomorrow. So
are you going to video yourself shooting some of that stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I was hoping to try to Mr. Buck there offered me to go live on his channel since I don't have the subs. So I was hoping to get that part on that because it's quite a long line in a sense. They bring you up in a bus group, so you're there with like 20 people. So, you know, you can select whatever you want to shoot. They supply all the ammo, so I figured be a lot of demonstrations of different firearms being shot. But now that I think of it, I probably can't do that live because they're holding guns. So
yeah,
no, so
yeah.
I have to talk to him about that. But
maybe film their back so we keep seeing guns.
Yeah, right.
Well, you know, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm about bucking the system and stuff like that. But then again, you have to look at right now, they're going to, you know, you buck the system a little too much and they're just going to shut the channel down and delete every bit of that content.
Yeah, and I don't want to thank somebody for being nice by getting their channel, you know, having their channel get problems. So.
Yeah. But
I believe he said he didn't care. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check, but still, that's still, you know.
Yeah.
Probably not the most classy thing I could do to a guy. So.
And
trying to throw on some extra layers right now because it's getting a little cool. Squib just took off.
Even if you were live, I would still, say film it for yourself also.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
that you could, have content for your channel. You could put out multiple different videos off of one day being there. Yeah, you could do a 4-hour live stream, but if you have the videos, you could turn that 4-hour event into 13 videos or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I've been trying to catch all different video, and I've had the lady taking video as well. So got a picture with Charlie Cook riding shotgun with Charlie, so
Hell
able
yeah.
to see him. Also, I feel horrible for forgetting her name. Lady that was on Sand Hill's show the other night with the DC project.
Oh yeah. I don't remember her name either. But
Hemingway or something like that. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's he was very nice. Well, they were both very, very nice, I should state, but we had a nice long conversation, so that was nice. I think they're starving. They were hoping for a ride to go get food, and unfortunately, everywhere in PA is at like 20%. So you got to make reservations everywhere and this and that. And apparently, I think he was going to ride with somebody from GOA or one of the groups. I can't recall. And the guy was like, yeah, little does he know, he ain't going anywhere anytime soon because we can't get a reservation. So I kind of felt bad. I was looking for him before we took off because we found the spot. And yeah, I couldn't find him before we ended up going, and we just went right down the road.
Yeah. Carolina EDC says, where are you at?
Greenlee, PA. It's the Tommy Gun Warehouse is what I believe is what it's called.
Yeah, so you're at the Car Arms Festival, right?
Correct. Yep. In the parking lot now, well, one of the parking areas. So.
Oh, just a sec. We'll throw that full.
It's died down a little bit. Still, actually, this is just one area of parking. There's actually quite a bit more. So it's still pretty busy.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of people. That's the facility. Actually, I don't think you can see it. Maybe the building in front of me. That's the actual warehouse, which is a beautiful store, let me tell you. So in there, they got pallets of ammo. You want 9mm? They got pallets. You want a case? You can buy a case. No problem. You want 5.56?
Did you buy some?
Cases. Oh, yeah, I bought ammo. Didn't buy what I'd like to buy, but the prices aren't bad, but they're higher than normal. I mean, under the circumstance, I guess.
Yeah, everyone's a little higher than normal.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Down this way or not?
Yeah. So I was at the store. I was at the store yesterday, and I saw Federal ammo on the shelf, and there was one other ammo brand in 9mm, and they were charging $11.99 for Federal, 115 grain. So it's a couple bucks more. Yeah.
That's actually good for my area. So.
Well, yeah, but that's still like $2 more than what it should be.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, in my area, that would be a good deal on a normal day. So, your area, I assume that might be right or whatever, but are a little higher. So here I noticed it was like 5.68. I think it broke out to 50 cents a round for 5.56 in there. So I ended up just, instead of buying a case, I actually bought some smaller boxes. So,
Yeah.
yeah, oh gosh, no, I'm slipping my name. Sorry. Slipping my mind here. Gosh, found horrible. That's the wall with everybody's name on it from the wars. The memorial
The
wall.
Vietnam? The Vietnam Wall?
Yep, that's here. Actually, it's got other conflicts as well there too. So I believe it's right up to modern times. So they made me clear my weapon in a barrel before I went into that area. You can go anywhere else around this whole place. There's buildings you can't see way off in the back behind where I'm showing you now, but there's another facility down that way. There's a whole bunch of stuff behind the building, which I'm heading to, but it'll get loud because that's where the concert is. Then you can go anywhere, no problem, open carry, gun out, whatever. If you want to get near that wall, they're locking your gun up. Not locking it, but zip tying it, you're clearing it in a barrel and everything. So kind of bring me back a little flashbacks, but I don't know what the deal is. I mean, if they're worried about somebody committing suicide by the wall or something, I don't know, but kind of strange.
It's because if it's the traveling Vietnam memorial, that's federal property.
Okay, but it's on private property.
It's
So
still
it became federal temporarily.
Yep, it's when because that wall is federal property. On wherever it's sitting, that is considered federal property until the federal property is then transported away.
Good to know. Makes sense. Yeah.
So
I learned something from your show tonight.
I'm not trying to be educational.
I think the coolest thing was this area that's back. I can go over that way back behind there, but the whole little tactical shoot course the kids set up. Oh, it was awesome. So watching these kids run around, it's all airsoft. So
yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was awesome. I see little girls, some of them look like they were 4 or 5 years old, running through, jumping over the barriers and stuff, taking shots. Try to get a close up of the course here.
Yeah. So
I assume I'm getting too loud for you, so
no.
I'll try to keep myself muted here after a second. Crap.
I don't think.
I can't see nothing but
yeah.
airsoft tactical course. Yeah, you can't see nothing.
I'm not sure that anything that they're, unless the music starts, that would. But everything else, I'm pretty sure, is going to be considered fair use. It'd only be once the music started playing that they could then say, well, that's not fair use. But I'm not monetized, so it doesn't matter anyways.
Well, they had a little dummy out there that you got to do a war cry on, which is awesome. You can't see it, but he was on the ground earlier because all the kids beat on him. And you can kind of see little reflections or little things. Those are all sheet metal targets set up. So the kids got to run through as they're timed, and they got a runner with them, directing them. And they run through, hop through the course, run all around, come back out. You got to deal with the dummy, and it's pretty neat. The kids were having a ball out here today. Younger kids I was watching, and they got a hatchet or knife throwing section over here, which was awesome too, seeing these kids. So
yeah,
might be able to. Obviously, nobody's over here right now, but
yeah.
I'll mute myself. It's getting loud.
Yeah, the national anthem is considered fair use, so you can go ahead and play that. I have no And even if they want to say something, you know what? That's the song of the United States, and then I'll take a channel strike on that.
All right, I just know how these mics are and stuff. I don't want to drown out your show.
So yeah, I'm not worried about something like that. I'll stand up and argue. That's our song for America, and we're not going to be ashamed to play it on anything.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a problem, and you're probably in the wrong damn country.
Exactly. If you got a problem with our national anthem, get the fuck out of the country. Period. I don't have anything to say. Awesome. Hell yeah, we got the fireworks show going on. See, Ozark, you show up here not realizing you're going to get a free fireworks show.
America.
Merca.
God bless bacon and baby bald eagles.
I can't help but wonder how close my car is.
Too late to be thinking about that now, huh?
Yeah, hopefully the wind's going the other way.
And it wouldn't be the first time your car's had firework damage this year.
No, it was not.
I had to specify this year. So, Patriot in the Dark says, went to a 5-year-old birthday party, came home, crashed on the couch, woke up with Rob talking in my house. I thought I was dreaming. Yeah, that would be kind of scary, you know. I was just about to
be a nice female.
Wow. They're putting on a good fireworks show.
Yeah, not bad. I think this is just the beginning, I believe. Yeah, speaking of that, my goodness, man. I've had like 4 people try to steal my lady since I've been here. Went out to eat, my lady couldn't even get up to the bar without 2 people trying to hit on her and my kid. These PA guys, man. Something else.
Well, you know, what can we say?
You can't blame a guy for trying, I guess. Just don't get pushy.
My wife about doesn't want to go to the grocery store without me anymore because, like, funny thing is she dresses very, very modestly, long flowing skirts. But it's always Hispanic dudes will almost about come up and ask for a number because apparently, like, she doesn't dress like most American women.
Or a lot of the, you know, there's a lot of people think that they've got to dress revealing to attract men. And you don't have to. Actually, the more you leave to the imagination, the more you're going to get the right guy, not just the guy who wants to take you home, have his way, and kick you to the curb the next morning. That's kind of my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I mean, it's good to have some fun with it, but in a sense, yeah, I think most guys tend to respect women that don't go around looking a certain way everywhere. Once you are in a relationship, that's pretty much how they're going to go around. So you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old, one of the old rap songs that says, "I want a lady on the street and a freak in the sheets."
Don't we all?
One going out of service for fuel.
Yeah, I broke up with a girl one time over that kind of thing. My daddy told me when I was a teenager, completely changed my way of thinking everything. He was like, "Yeah, I dumped this one girl. She was absolutely gorgeous." And I was like, "What, y'all didn't get along?" He's like, "Oh, no, we got along great." And I was like, "Well, what was the deal?" He's like, "Well, apparently, she wasn't just flirty because she liked me, after they were dating, and she was flirty with other dudes, and he's not a jealous type at all. He's not like that. It's like, yeah, she was still flirty,
Yep.
so I told her to take a hike, and I didn't let her ride in my Mustang either." And so I kind of noticed that with this one girl I was hanging out with a lot, and I just kind of quietly, I didn't try to ghost her or anything. I wasn't like trying to do that. I literally I was sitting at the table, and this is back when like Motorola Razors were really a thing. Next thing I know, it's like her phone just won't stop buzzing. And back then we didn't text all the time. And she would look at her phone, just laugh, and then look at it, and then type into it and laugh. And I'm like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, "I know it's tough being here in a new place. You miss all your old girlfriends." She's like, "Oh no, this is some guy in Oklahoma." I was like, "What?" And then it buzzes again. I'm like, "That's the dude in Oklahoma." So, "Oh no, this is a guy back in Wisconsin." I'm like, okay. So I got up, and at first I was like, "Oh, is this about?" Well, nope. She was just straight up flirting. So I was like, "Okay." I got up, I turned around, and I walked away. And I guess she thought I was going to be back or something. No, I didn't show up again.
Good on you. Yeah, some people are like that. So be careful.
Well,
it's funny when you hear people about their divorce and this and that, and you find out they met their wife at the bar. All they did was drink and hang out on the weekend, and kids, and serious. And you're off to work, and she's still hanging out at the bar. So yeah, you can't change people. So you got to either accept them the way they are, or find somebody you can live with.
So, Patriot in the Dark says he uses the Ray Charles method. I'm pretty sure a couple of us can get away with using the Ray Charles method.
Yeah, it won't work for me.
It's where Ray Charles would feel a woman's wrist when he shook her hand, right?
Yep. But,
thought it was a
I see we got Seven Wonders out in the crowd. But, when you're visually challenged, you can get away with things that non-visually challenged people can get away with.
Yep, or really old. The old guys always get away with things they shouldn't.
I guess it would depend on the old guys. Sometimes I think it depends on the creep factor. At this point, Joe Biden couldn't really get away with anything.
That's true. Probably does.
I forget who said it, but the best line I heard was, at this point, Joe Biden can tell the difference between 95 different shampoos.
My dad remembers all the names, but I'm sure he can smell the difference between some. 85, I don't know if he can remember all that.
Trump totally ought to do a campaign commercial where, you remember that scene from Silence of the Lambs where Hannibal sniffs through the holes in the plexiglass? You could tell exactly what type of perfume everything she was wearing. Mm-hmm. Gotta splice in from Joe Biden sniffing and then go to that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that would definitely. But there's a lot of different of the memes and some videos that are out with Biden doing his sniffing and stuff. But yeah, they're definitely out there, and I don't know if it creeps out a lot of other people, but it, when you see, even when you see them sniffing like little kids and stuff, you're just going, oh God, and then like I'll see people driving around with Biden stickers and stuff on their vehicles, and I'm in a very conservative area, but the only thing I think is, oh, you're going to support pedophilia?
I passed a guy today. He was getting on the highway as I was going by and noticed the Biden sticker. I was like, oh, let me see who this guy is. I got up going by. That was a black family. I don't like yelling at them, but you know about the racism? I don't know, whatever. Yeah. Why don't you look back a few years? You might think differently. I don't know. I don't know for people like that on the road, but of course the lady was like, it's too bad we don't have the truck. You could have ran them off the road. And I'm like, thanks. She was kidding, just for the record.
So I see we're joined out in the crowd by 223 DMR and Mr. Honcho Fett. Welcome. Yeah, the other day I scared Mr. Honcho Fett by telling him that creepy Uncle Joe was behind him, was sneaking up on him. So, yeah, he's probably not going to let me live that one down because I scared the crap out of him.
Is there a Kevin from New York in the chat out there?
He says, I nearly shot myself.
23. Is there a Kevin from New York in the chat?
I don't think there's a Kevin from New York. I don't see anything. Are they going by a different name?
No, that's the name I know. The viewer. So I was hi. They sent me an email trying to meet up with them, but I don't know what they're wearing or what they look like. So I'm gonna have them come meet me by the buses. But
Stand on that if you want.
oh, thank you. That's all right. It's all right. That's nice though. Thank you. I appreciate it. Offered to stand on the golf cart.
Wow, how short do they think you are? So, Mr. Ozark, is there any part of the Constitution you want to discuss that like particularly sticks out to you, or?
I guess if you were to run down the basic list, at least what comes to mind, there is speech, assembly, religion. I think one of them in the chat asked, I was able to check it just briefly, asked about freedom of expression. That's interesting. I want to do a little bit of a study on that. Apparently, like especially in terms of speech, I think that is expression. I mean, because you're allowed to express your opinion. You're allowed to express yourself. So I would think that would be covered under freedom of speech. That's why it even says speech and not words. Then you got, of course, Second Amendment. We should all do that. And then you got Fourth Amendment, no unreasonable search and seizure. You got Fifth Amendment. You got the right to not criminally implicate yourself, right to remain silent. Yeah, Eighth Amendment, no unreasonable or harsh punishment. And then is it the 10th is property rights? Man, I'm not thinking right now. But then I know it codifies property rights, correct?
Yeah, I believe I'd have to pull that back up.
One interesting thing when you Google Constitution and it literally puts down a bullet point of a list of rights, it skips the Second Amendment.
See, like I'm on
Let's skip a second.
I'm on Constitution, the constituteproject.org, and they list every single thing. I mean, every bit of, if you've got subsections under each, if the amendment has a subsection, they're going to tell you every bit of that subsection. The power is not delegated to. The 10th is the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibit by it to the states, are reserved to the state respectively or to the people. So,
Right to trial by jury, is that the 7th Amendment, I think?
in suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. And then the Eighth Amendment is about excessive bail.
Yeah, it's funny. If you go on Google the word Constitution, underneath there's some bars of things you can click on and a down arrow that'll expand. One of them is what are the 10 constitutional rights? If you click the little arrow and it puts down a bullet point of all your rights, it literally skips right past right to keep and bear arms. It doesn't list it.
Yeah, because they don't want you to know about it. Google is anti-2A. So, one of the amendments that I wanted to really talk about tonight was the Fifth Amendment, and we can discuss how it can be used in the Rittenhouse case, because parts of it really apply to the Rittenhouse case in particular. I mean, it can be used in the the couple in St. Louis. They could also have parts of this used in their defense if they actually wanted to try arguing. So in the Fifth Amendment, it says no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in case arising in land or naval forces or in the military, when actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So, I see we have Mystic Guns out in the crowd. Oh, welcome. So, in the Rittenhouse situation, for him to be able to prove his innocence, he is going to be forced to have to testify against himself.
Testify against yourself.
With the grand jury, there seems to be a few different rules because they can hold you in contempt if you don't testify.
Yeah. But even if you just submit video evidence, you're having to prove with that video evidence as a testifying effect against yourself, either for good or for bad. That video evidence is going to be used in there. And his own legal defense has already released videos, saying that they're going to use these videos in court. Well, now, they're having to fight not only public opinion, but they're also having to then try to, okay, we got to manage jury before we even get to pick a jury. I mean, how can he be tried, of a jury of his peers? Do you think that they're going to put people in there that are of his age group? That would be of his peers. Or are they going to put people in there that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s to be on that jury?
And that's the thing. Literally, the whole legal thing, the only legal thing they could even go after him, really, is you have a right to help protect your friend's business. You have a right to be armed when you're protecting your friend's business. They even have to try to twist Wisconsin law to say he couldn't be armed. Oh, they had to do with hunting when a minor is armed openly with a rifle, because usually it is allowed. The only thing they can go after him is, oh, well, he wasn't technically an adult yet, so he was illegally armed in the state of Wisconsin. But you can't have that both ways. You can legally charge him as an adult for the crime, but he couldn't be legally armed to protect himself during a riot with no rule of law. This should be an easy defense for the lawyer, I would think, because any minor, when someone's breaking in your home, and I understand the difference in the situation here, but you got to consider riots, no rule of law. He was protecting a friend's business at their invitation. Any minor is allowed to get their parents' firearm to protect themselves when someone's breaking in the house. That is a legally established precedent. He was at his friend's property at their invitation. There was an emergency. People were trying to kill him. So he had a right to have a firearm.
And the firearm wasn't his.
Yeah, it was apparently gifted to him. He didn't steal it. It was given to him. But you got a right to protect yourself with whatever you have in a situation like that. There are even precedents when people that are dealing drugs, maybe something minor like weed or something, I don't know. Someone tries to rob them and they defend themselves. I think there have been cases where they've gotten off legally on self-defense, even though they're like dealing weed or something. Because come on, legalize it already. And someone did rob them, they did defend themselves,
So Kingpin says minors can't be on a jury. Exactly.
Yeah, so either you don't charge him as an adult and you drop the charges because he's quote unquote a kid, or it doesn't matter that he's a kid and therefore he can legally be armed. I mean, that's where that's why circumstances and precedent matter so much. He's old enough to join the military, and yes, I know the difference. He's not in the military, he's not trained, but I mean, a 17-year-old can sign up for the military. He can protect his friend's business. He's old enough. He didn't go there to attack people. That's been proven. The video evidence proves he did everything he could to get away.
And he surrendered aid.
Yeah, and the fact that they filed charges with no investigation because of literally an angry mob outside the prosecutor's office threatening him if he did. I mean, you can't have a more clear-cut case, I wouldn't think, other than this just being political.
He attempted to surrender aid to the very first guy he shot, which, if the angry mob would have allowed, because of his training, he could have theoretically saved the guy's life. We will never know.
Yeah, because immediately there was already an angry mob going after him. It's just that one guy, the one guy who actually grabbed his rifle, and other people testified to this, grabbed his rifle and tried to attack him, tried to grab his gun, so therefore he shot him and defended himself. It was proven that guy, right before that on video, was running up to people with ARs and yelling, "Shoot me, shoot me." So they proved that the guy was being erratic and violent.
Yep.
And also in the same video, Rittenhouse, it was seen running past. That what happened was Antifa type people in the mob were grabbing dumpsters. They found video of them pulling several dumpsters through an alley, lit it on fire, tried to push it into a business and burn down a business. Rittenhouse did what a decent human being would do. He grabbed a fire extinguisher, ran up to it, and put it out. That mob got angry at him. He spoiled their fun when they tried to burn down a stinking gas station. Then they attacked him. He tried to render it after he shot the guy, but the stinking mob kept yelling, "He just shot him! He just shot him! Get him!" It's no different. It's literally no different than Chaz when one of their idiots wound up shooting an innocent guy. The cops and the ambulance tried to get there to save him, but then the moron mob blocked the first responders from getting there, and the guy died as a result.
Yep. So in the very first situation, when the very first guy got shot, there's a video that's been released by his defense team that shows that before he pulled that trigger the very first time, another person in the crowd actually fired a shot off, which could have led to him discharging that firearm, and hitting that guy. Because it all happened in that same little situation. As the brick came flying, a gunshot, and then Rittenhouse fires in return.
And I don't know, and my thought is, if you're literally in the middle of a riot, you didn't go there to protect the business, but that's what was needed. And someone who apparently the business owner had two other businesses burned down. There's his last business. There's a chance insurance isn't going to cover during a riot. And he asked his friends, including the teens, could you help protect my business? Personally, if I owned a business, I wouldn't let a 17-year-old out there to protect it, even if he wanted to. I think that was probably a poor choice on the business owner. But they went there and helped. And, I mean, normally, yeah, you wouldn't give a 17-year-old a rifle, but he knows how to use it. He was obviously well-trained. I'm sure he said that. If it's in the middle of a stinking riot and a 17-year-old knows how to handle a rifle, then give him a rifle. I mean, he had to protect himself.
Well, so when the guy that got a hold of Rittenhouse had a car dealership, and half of his dealership had already been burnt down the night before. He was close friends with Rittenhouse's family, and I believe they had been out on a hunting trip once or twice before, so he had firsthand knowledge of Rittenhouse's, use of firearms and the kind of training that he had. I'm not saying it was justified to put a rifle in his hand, but again, you're trying to save your business.
Yeah, and that's where I would have differed. I would have said, my business is being burned down. My buddies are like, dudes, let's gear up. Let's protect the business. Yeah, I would totally do that. I would totally be up for my friends helping me protect my business. But, a 17-year-old, even if he is trying to handle himself, I would tell him, I'd shake my head and say, no, thank you. I appreciate it, dude. But, give it a few years. But I remember being 17. I remember being 18. I was also very well trained, not well trained, but I was also very familiar with firearms at the time. I wouldn't let me out there in that situation at 17 years old. I'd be getting some more experienced buddies. I know plenty of veterans. I got plenty of buddies that are, a lot older than that and a lot more experienced. Because if you go out there in a riot to protect a business, you're putting your life on the line.
Yeah, and I agree on there, but then again, at the same time, we've got to look at a lot of what's going on. Who are the people that are actually standing up and going and defending, in these riot situations? Unfortunately, it's not the people that have, more of the experience and stuff. A lot of us are sitting back. And, because everyone's like, oh, well, I don't want to be the one going to prison. I'm not, I don't want to lose my job and stuff like that. But yet we don't want to do anything to stop what's going on. We're out here using our voices, and saying how much we're displeased with what the situation that's going on and everything. But are we out there in the areas demanding that the governors and the mayors and stuff actually do anything? Are we calling their offices? Are we writing to them?
That's
are we? Go ahead.
It's not Kyle's fault. It's not that business owner's fault. To me, the fault goes entirely on the politicians. Trump offered National Guard. He turned it down. The cops said they were overwhelmed. The politicians did nothing. They let that city burn. The governor and the lieutenant governor, which they're apparently woke pieces of trash, they threw the cops under the bus. And I know the whole wait 48 hours thing. We had video of the Jacob Blake shoot. You could see on the video, people automatically zoomed in and said, look, he's holding a Grommet in his hand. They ordered him to stop, and then he reached in a car. Story over. But what did the politicians do? They riled the public up. They threw him under the bus. They would not bring in the National Guard to do their job. They put that community, they put that business owner, they put Kyle Rittenhouse and the locals in that situation to protect their own community. That was on them. They burned a charity. They burned a church. They beat an innocent guy over the head who was begging them not to burn his charity down. That's on the politicians. Arrest the politicians. Charge the politicians. According to U.S. Code 242, they violated people's constitutional rights. They should be charged with a federal felony.
Yep. Well, that, we need to be demanding that they be removed because they're not fulfilling the oath that they have sworn to uphold. They're not protecting anybody,
Yeah, and, people criticize Rittenhouse all they want, but all the little thugs standing around there holding their signs that were basically acting as cheerleaders and saying they're filming and cheering while they burn down these businesses, they weren't doing anything to stop it. They were helping it. They were allowing it. And then the government allowed it. You notice as soon as they brought in the National Guard, boom, it was over. And not only that, but after Rittenhouse did that, you notice all of a sudden the rioting sure seemed to stop real fast after that.
Well, and we can look right at what's going on over here. And look at Portland. It's what 200 over 100 and I think 60 days or something that they've had riots going on pretty much every night.
Yep, and the local prosecutor just announced again that he or she is dropping all the charges against any rioters again. So what Trump did was he actually federalized, deputized, I guess, as marshals, the local or the Oregon State Police, and then they started arresting them on federal charges, which, I mean, you get arrested on Fed charges, that's big boy time. There's no probation, no parole, no early release. So they're going for a long time. Now, apparently, the little Antifa punks are really freaking out over it.
Well, just a couple nights ago, an officer was close to the end of his shift. He was parked on the side of the road, doing all of his paperwork and everything. And a guy shattered the back window of his patrol car and proceeded to empty a pepper spray can inside the back of his car, filling the entire car with, pepper spray. The officer was able to get out of his vehicle and put over the air a description of the suspect and the vehicle that he was driving. He was caught 6 blocks away. And in the report, the officer said that that guy had been following him earlier in the day, just following everywhere he was going.
That's one thing that, and Rob, I wonder if you would be able to chime in on this, given your experience. I don't see what that experience is here, but I mean, I've had to have, for jobs I've had to have surveillance training, counter surveillance training, running a surveillance detection route, things like that. Especially these days, I think cops should have more training like that.
Yeah, they've definitely got to be able to. But anymore, whatever a police officer does, either good or bad, they're automatically the aggressor.
Well, that's with all the rioting and the way it's gone. It was when this all started, whether you thought it was right or wrong, was a perfect opportunity to get some changes done that need to be done in the policing. And as soon as all the rioting and everything started burning, all that went out the window. It all went to crap, and nothing's going to change.
Yep.
I'm back, guys. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's right. You're out there.
Yeah, I had bumped into the Kevin from New York. So since one fan decided to show up, I actually have a fan. I figured I should be respectful and say hi.
Oh, I think we got to have their mental stability checked. If they're going to actually be a fan. No.
Yeah, seen the owner here too, Mr. Moon. He was with some people, so I didn't get him on the video. I was hoping to say something to him, but obviously bad timing as I was speaking with the other guy, and then he was there. Everybody was thanking him for the celebration, so I might be able to catch him tomorrow. So we already kind of talked earlier today.
So I see we have Warsaw Patriot. It's not that I've been ignoring. And like he says out there that he says, I will say this: if it wasn't for good cops, Antifa and / the extreme, Black Lives Matter would have destroyed our country. and they're destroying certain cities, and those cities are allowing it to happen.
And I don't believe that would be the case if they destroy it, but that's just me. I think as soon as they got to neighborhoods like ours, they'd run into some trouble.
Yeah,
Well, that's the thing I was going to say. If it weren't for the cops, I mean, locals would have stopped them already everywhere.
yeah. I mean, so out in like Portland area, they moved out of Portland and they went into some of the neighborhoods, and the community people, or no, sorry, that was down in Eugene. They went into Springfield, and the community started running them out, and they came out there armed and everything, and that's when the police started responding and were like, forcing those guys out of there, because the people were gonna, what, enough's enough, we're just gonna stop this.
Yeah, I saw that. There was a guy who, there was a group out there in Portland. A guy, or the whole neighborhood gathered. Antifa tried to show up in their suburbs outside Portland, and yeah, like you said, the whole neighborhood basically surrounded Antifa guys, basically escorted them out. They were in their little black block outfits, trying to dress up like ninjas or something, and they escorted them out of the neighborhoods. Antifa thugs tried to kind of push back a little bit, so the locals wound up rolling down into a ditch with them, and it wound up just in an all-out brawl.
Yeah.
And they whooped up on them.
Yep.
There was some Antifa dude. He had to be like 50. It was pathetic. He looked like 50 years old, and it looked like some adult bedroom toy or something. But he had some little whip thing, and he was like popping it on the back over and over, like some little horse whip thing. He was popping it on the back of one of the guys who was brawling. And the other dude, it was the local guy. The local guy didn't even feel it. He just kept wailing right on the Antifa guy.
Yeah, they're not always the brightest of the bunch.
Should have left his bedroom toys at home.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, that Antifa's got to mean business one of these days. You're going to watch them come walking out, and they're going to have all their adult toys in their hands.
That's one altercation I'd like to avoid. That's for sure.
Yep. Yeah.
There's a very simple way to handle that. One of them, just walk out there with a ton of MAGA hats, pull their masks off and throw MAGA hats on their heads, and then just yell, "There's a Trump guy," and then just turn around and run.
I'll try to do it. Speaking of that, I got a Trump sign debating on throwing it in the yard. The lady wants to, but I give it about 10 minutes before it gets destroyed in my neighborhood.
You gotta
Or-
do like they do, where they put tax inside the sign.
Yeah,
so when
she's
you
talking about razor blades or something. I don't know if that's legal.
electrify it.
Said that, but that might not be legal either. I
Well,
don't know.
you can get the
Keep
little.
in mind, I'm in New York, so
Yeah, you can get the
Everything's
little
wrong.
electric fences for pets, so it won't kill you, but it gives you a pretty good jolt. Less than like a horse fence.
Yep, I know what you're talking about. I peed on one of those ones. The ones that pulsate. So you can get fooled and think, oh, that's not alive, and then go ahead and pee, and then you start dancing and doing the jig, and you realize it is. Not cool, let me tell you.
I think that was on 1,000 Ways to Die once. I don't know. In that particular situation, he got just too much of a connection.
Oh,
It
yeah.
didn't kill me, but made me think I was dead for a minute. So I made a heck of a mess. Tell you that. Thankfully, it was in the dark playing Manhunt at a friend's house, so I don't think anybody noticed.
Or at least you hope no one noticed.
Correct. I'm back to the vehicle now. I guess we're wrapping it up for the night here. But should be back tomorrow, so shouldn't be too big of a deal.
So I have a channel notification. November the 14th. That is a Saturday. Mr. Chris Chen, winner of Top Shot, will be on the show.
Sweet.
So get your questions ready, and we can try to ask him a few questions, but I think we were only going to get him for roughly a half hour. I mean, it may end up, he may decide he wants to stay longer or whatever, but I've been promised a half hour.
Okay, that sounds good. Shoot, half hour is not a whole lot, but I've already got, I think, 6 or 7 questions written down. But obviously, I can consult with you over them, so we're not overlapping. And try to get whatever you'd like, however you'd like it to go with the show. So there's a few different angles we could take on this, but some information off air would be ideal to choose what angle. But I got a couple different angles with my questioning. So, but again, yeah, depends what he wants to get into and what he doesn't. So
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, when he was on Sandy's show, he was pretty, good at answering questions. Now, I'm not going to say ask him what his dating profile is like.
yeah, I might not take it to that extent. Obviously, the fact, it probably could be a subject, though. But again, that's if he was interested in that or not. Just, 'cause I'm sure he has to deal with crap others don't. So, yeah. But again, all depends what way you're trying to get the show to go. So, probably keep it more business and professional, like typical, and then maybe if he has a good time, come back. So,
And I know, like, when he was on Sandy's show, he, even Sandhill said, hey, I know I have you for a half hour, but then he decided that he was going to stay longer. Now that will be his decision on if he wants to stay longer. I guess if he is enjoying himself, maybe he'll have a few extra moments he can stay. I'm not going to promise anything, but yeah, I think, getting some questions together, being able to, have a couple questions per person that's going to be on the panel that week. And so, yeah, not us all overlapping on the same questions, or, not write out a bunch of questions and then have you guys ask the questions that I'm dictating. I think we all need to be able to have a couple of good questions.
Yeah, Kingpin's got a good idea. You should do a promotional video for it.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to do a standalone video on it, but I'm going to do it a little closer to, if I do a video now, are we going to be remembering this in like a month?
Yeah.
Or do it at like the end of October, maybe the beginning of November, where it's a lot fresher in our minds.
he's got a lot of video footage of him due to the shows and stuff. I mean, it is possible you could do like a little smaller thing and then just keep kind of adding. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good thing. I don't know. But in a sense, remind people, you know what I mean? So it might interest some people and then be like, well, I'll keep an eye out for that. And then, you remind them a few days beforehand again. And, sometimes a lot of us could use a reminder on things now and then. So maybe, popping something out twice or something might not be a bad idea, but I don't know. Nobody's special, so just spitballing an idea here.
So we got Warsaw saying at me, question for you. It's been 2 months since I did a wood project. Any ideas? Dude, I have got so many different kinds of ideas that it depends upon how you want to go about it. You could easily, if you want to go something that's going to have like a lot of meaning, you could do, like a wood sign that's got, like the breast cancer awareness ribbon. You could do a prostate cancer ribbon and some of the other cancer researches, and maybe try to do like an auction on the woodwork, donating 100% of that to different organizations. Or you could go ahead and do like a veteran suicide sign or a mental health sign.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Again, donate that to, like Justin's Final Mission, 22 Kill, something like that. There's so many different ideas that and again, you could do multiple different ones, and while you're doing them, do little teaser videos, showing how they're being done and everything, and build up that anticipation for when the auction is going to happen. Get more people involved and stuff like that. There's American flag. There's lots of different ones that people might want out there. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what kind of all different kinds of
So,
Mr. Fall,
Outcast sign. That'd be a good one.
Well, get a hold of him. I'm pretty sure he'll make you one if you want to buy one.
Take coupons.
So yeah. I see we got Ghost out there, and if so, Ghost, I saw on your IG post the other day you have those neck gaiters with you. I haven't looked at. Are they on your website where people can buy them? And do they come in any other color than white?
Yeah, Clover has
I mean,
put one up too.
I haven't been on IG in a couple days. It just Is Ghost not a mod?
Well, he is a ghost.
Well, you know, Ghost, when you put stuff like that out, people start to, want what they maybe not be able to have. You know? So let's hope we don't have any feedback.
Oh, we came close to a drunken incident at the bar. Apparently, one of their local patrons had a little too much to drink, kept bothering the waitress. Issues. He was the same guy trying to hit on my lady again. It almost got hairy there for a minute. Guy left, came back. Lady started freaking out. Thankfully, some other people in the bar ended up then getting them to leave. So that was almost exciting. Could have been a cool video.
Yeah, that might have got you in a little trouble.
Possibly. You never know these days. It's not New York, so, defending yourself probably isn't a crime here. So that's a plus.
What state are you in, Rob?
Pennsylvania.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think they're a pretty cool state.
Yeah, everybody here seemed pretty cool. So, depending where you go, sometimes I usually don't have trouble with PA. So. When I went to renew my permit yesterday or the other day, that was a hairy trail, but thankfully no trouble arrived from it. But it was quite an experience. Rare for my trips in the PA. So today was great, no problem with anybody. Everything seemed, like you'd hope it would be. So.
Yeah. I gotta win the lottery so I can go on vacation and spend some time in different states.
Yeah, one thing my wife wants to do in New York is she wants to go up to the Adirondacks, like around the Catskills.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind going to certain parts of New York, but in other parts of New York, I think honestly, probably like New York and some of those states would probably be one of the last ones on my list to go. It's just like a lot of people, oh, well, I want to go to Hawaii. Hawaii doesn't have anything that I really want. If I'm going to go to Hawaii, there's only one reason I'm going to Hawaii. I'm going to go there. I'm going to pay my respects at Pearl Harbor, and then, I'm going to leave. Otherwise, I have no reason to be in Hawaii.
Go to the cemetery up at Punch Bowl. If you go up there too. It is an awesome place to go.
Yeah. Honcho says go to Hawaii to get laid. He spelled it, like a lay, the necklace that they not go there to sleep with women. and the wife strikes in the background. New York almost got his wish. Got to hear me get yelled at on live.
What's that? What I missed? I had to swap phones. Other one died.
Oh, you missed the wife yelling at me
Oh,
on
man.
live?
Can she do it again? Just for me?
He says, "Can she do it again just for me?" uh,
What'd you do? You steal the last cookie or something?
no, I read Honcho's comment about go to Hawaii to get laid.
Ah.
But you know the flower necklace, the lei.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. But I see we've lost Ozark. Hopefully he comes back so he can promote his channel. His phone may have died too.
I put a link to his channel when I jumped in earlier.
Yep. Thank you again. Ozark.
Yeah, I think it's weird. My signal just fell out for a while, so I had to enter back in.
Yep. Yeah. But so if you guys want a Ghost Tactical face mask, he has graciously put the link in the chat so you can get one of his face masks that has his channel logo on there.
I'll only buy one if it actually smells like Ghost.
So Ghost has to get first. So so
What exactly does a ghost smell like?
I think it smells kind of like crayons.
Crayons and punching.
I don't know. It smells like gunpowder and Dakar Noir, I would imagine.
It smells like
According to
dust
Hunter
because
Vet.
it smells like dust because on every one of the reality shows, in areas that just happen to be real dusty, then there's the magical orb of glowing light going in front of the camera, and that must be a ghost, they say.
You know, I'm not quite sure. So, anyone got some topics they want to discuss? Andrew says ghosts smell like gunpowder, cigarettes, and mid-priced bourbon.
That's what he smells like.
So, Ghost says, I smell pretty bad. I only shower once a month.
In college, we had something called the Norwegian shower. That's where you pretty much only had time to stand with a shirtless over a sink, you know, get the pits, the face.
Yeah, those are called bum showers.
So, you also have the whore bath. If you ride Greyhound buses, you'll learn about them, and that's where you use baby wipes to wipe down certain areas so you don't smell like ass and stuff all day when you're on a Greyhound bus going cross country.
I have actually done that before when I was traveling.
Paid by our government, but don't always have facilities where you're at sometimes. You can go quite a long ways with baby wipes. It's not pretty, not comfortable, but it can be done.
And I only did like in the restroom or in the stall or whatever, in between rides. But there are the folks that, they'll pretty much do the whole works in the bus, on the seat, brushing their teeth. They're pretty much giving themselves the works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So
I've seen people clipping
the wife-
their toenails in the doctor's office waiting. That's crossing a line, in my opinion, but apparently they felt comfortable doing so.
Yeah. So the wife's brought up a topic about the Louisiana priest and his two dominatrix having sex on the altar, and the archbishop saying that it has to be burnt because it's been desecrated. Anyone have thoughts on that?
What exactly happened on the altar?
A priest in a Louisiana parish had sex with two dominatrix on the church altar.
I could see that being an issue. And if you want to
yes,
get
he was
back in
caught.
historical times, churches used to, get together for orgies and all types of stuff. So, but nowadays, I can see that being a problem. So.
Yep. Ozark, you have any comments on that?
Well, there's the curiosity, certain questions that I would probably ask, people involved. But given the usual scandals of priests, I would say I'm almost relieved it was a couple dominatrix.
Yeah, they were of age,
Right?
right?
I'm gonna guess so. Yes.
All right. If anything else, if I were Catholic, it's just one more thing I would use to say to Rome, okay, are you gonna actually practice what it says in 1 Timothy 5 now? Are you actually gonna let them get married, or what? No, chapter 2, I think. You actually gonna let them get married so you'll stop saving money?
So,
Did they get this on video?
Mr. Honcho Fett says, I do not know if it was how it was caught, if just somebody saw it or what, but Mr. Andrew Faulkner says at the 2A church that a baptism, LOL. And then Honcho Fett says, tap rack and reload. Holy Father.
Yeah.
So, with Honcho, we were discussing doing a 2A church and trying to actually getting an organization, so we could get a 501c and have it, so then our 2A is then protected by, church, which would fall under the First Amendment. So that's what we've been looking into.
I can tell you right out the bat, there's going to be doctrinal arguments and church splits over things like caliber, doctrine and, slingshot versus overhand.
I think when it just needs to be, we are here to, we're all about the 2A. We don't care what kind of firearm. If you own a Glock, if you own a Smith & Wesson, like some people, if you have a SIG, if you have a CZ, if you have an HK, we may have to draw a line at if you own an Altor, still kind of up in the air on that, but we may let them in.
Beautiful job on the Smith & Wesson today. They coated it. Thing looked nice.
Yeah,
got it on Rick's channel. Did you see it?
Yeah, you cut out for a while. We didn't hear part of what you were saying.
All right, sorry. I was saying when I was on Rick's show there earlier, I was trying to get video of it. There was some nice ones where they custom coated the guns. It looked pretty good, man. I know Snob does some of that stuff, so I can't state what form they used, but it looks better than like a hydrant did or something. So I'm not sure what they did. Some nice looking stuff, though, I'll tell you that.
Only one person caught what I was saying on there when I mentioned the Altor, and defense says that rules out Snob. It's that one pistol that I showed you that you asked what that was. Yeah, it's a one-shot 9mm. And yeah, man, there's definitely going to be no worry if you got a 9, a 380, a 25 auto, 40, 45, 44. Are you running a 50? Do you have a firearm? I mean, I'm all about the 40 life, but I also respect Rob's limp wrist of being a 9-man, so that's completely acceptable.
No, that's just wrong. That's just wrong.
That's just because all us that carry 9mm can hit our target. I mean,
I agree with that.
You guys spray and pray because your all main comment is, but I can have more rounds than you can. I don't need as many.
Oh, because you don't know what to expect. And, everybody's got their homies and their boys and everybody else around the corner, too. So if you're in an urban area and counting on 6 rounds, good luck. That's all I can say. So, statistically,
that just means that
might be okay in some cases.
It just means that we shoot more.
Well, G23, you don't want to get on them too much. They're soft and supple wrists. Can only handle that 9mm.
Actually, I carried a 450 SMC for 6 months, and I shot that sucker too.
Hell yeah!
And I carry 9, but I carry Underwood plus B plus, man, 500 foot-pounds.
Funny you guys say that. When I had to clear my shield there at the clearing barrel to go see the wall, guy started laughing. He's like, "Oh, look at that pea shooter. What's that?" And I was like, "What?" Even Squib started laughing. Everybody had a good laugh at my 9mm. So, not cool, guys. Not cool. Okay.
Yeah, my problem is I always go with the max I absolutely can. And I'm not kidding. I carried a 450 SMC for a long time. That's basically 45 probably hotter than a lot of 45 Super. It's a 230 grain 45 at 1,200 feet per second by double tap, and it uses a thick coated brass. So any gun that can handle 45 plus speed can fire it at factory. And I carried that for a long time. The only reason I went back to 9 was grace be to Kevin Underwood for bestowing upon us the plus P plus with a gold dot. And otherwise I think I'd be packing 10 millimeter if I were to ever do anything else.
10. I like 10 mil, but right now a lot of the 10 mil isn't loaded to its proper load. It's not going. The 40 performs almost the same as that 10.
Oh yeah, I had an SD40 VE, and I fired the Underwood 155 grain out of that sucker. Coming out, it clocked over 1,300 feet per second. So I think you're talking around maybe a little over 600 foot-pounds. I'll try to find a video if I can. Maybe I can download it off of. I saved it on a friend's Facebook page. I don't have the original anymore, but I shot a watermelon with that. And you remember that scene from Star Wars when they blew up the Death Star?
Yep.
It was literally like I was standing something like 15 feet away. I thought I wound up covered in little watermelon pulp and head to toe. And there was only like this tiny, tiny little piece of the base of the melon sitting on top of the log I was shooting it on.
Yep. So, you got ammo out there, especially for like your 40, that's gonna go traveling extremely nice, especially when you're running like a like a 135 or a 150 grain, or even like a 155 that's just screaming. Like Minuteman ammo. You can pull a a 150 grain that's traveling at 1,200 feet per second. And that's a self-defense, hollow point. Defense Dad says you should also exclude a Sky. It's sort of a gun, but not really.
I'll tell you what, if anybody walks into the Church of the 2A and you got a Gucci Glock or a Sig Legion, we're expecting a kind of a bigger offering there. Just saying.
Right?
Now, it's funny that you say that, because this place where I just left, apparently, they're connected with a church group that, from the research I looked at, go to church with their ARs. And consider that the rod of iron, I believe, is out of a Bible verse. So, which if it wasn't so far away, would be fairly tempting, because I can respect that, and I like my guns. So,
we had a guy that was going to our church for probably a good 6 months. And he just casually came, never joined, and that's fine. And the weird thing is he just kept coming to a lot of services. One day, we had a church meeting over something, and it was mostly just the guys in the church. It was kind of an evening service, so it wasn't a little lacking in attendance that day. And he just kind of sat in on the meeting, like, okay, fine. And then he walked in. He's like, you know what? He's like, I've heard that there's some people that carry guns in church. And we all kind of looked at each other. This is rural Missouri. Any church around here, especially ours. We we all just kind of looked around at each other. We're like, wait a minute, what, you're not carrying? He just looked at us like we were crazy. He like, no, it's church. And so then one guy kind of lifted his shirt and showed he was carrying like a little SIG P938. He goes, whoa. He's like, oh, okay, but you're a combat veteran, the guy he was talking to. And then we all just laughed. He was like, what's so funny? Everybody kind of lifted up their shirt, and this guy's like, yeah, I got a little one. I got two of them. And he looked at me. He's like, you? I looked up. I said, yeah, I'm carrying a full-size Glock 17. He goes, oh, my goodness. Yeah, he about fell out of his chair.
That's pretty funny. Oh, he should know he's in a safe place then, huh?
Yeah, yeah. At first, it was a little bit of a weird. I think it was a weird out experience to him, but we were more surprised at him. We're like, "Are you from around here?"
Yeah, well, it's like the guy with a new gun that goes to the gun store and he's like, I'm looking for a holster, but, he's scared to pull his gun out. And the guy's like, well, it is a gun store. So I've seen that happen a couple times. Obviously do it in a respectful manner, but, this is the one store. It's pretty okay to see guns. It's a gun store, so it was pretty funny.
I see we've got Mr. Carolina back. Welcome.
Yo.
So have you got your new video up?
No, not yet. The internet's slow. Also, we're having all this rain. It's just messing up the signal and stuff.
Yeah. You guys getting some of the remnants of the hurricane that hit in Louisiana?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of rain till supposed to rain till Monday, I think, here. So
Yeah.
I think we're supposed to get the residual effects of that in Missouri. It's blowing up the Mississippi Valley, I heard.
Yeah. So the wife was reading earlier about was it two guys from Seattle were found murdered in where was that? Mississippi? Alabama. But not quite sure. I guess they were fiber optic installers. So maybe so they were out repairing fiber optic lines after the first hurricane, and I don't know if they went too far into the story about it but
they just found their two bodies. They think they've been dumped on a highway there.
So they found two bodies. They were shot to death, and they think they were dumped there. But did they go on the wrong property? Did they hit on the wrong guy? What's the backstory?
There's a good chance rural Alabama, same as around here. I mean, good chance they could have come across a meth lab or maybe even a pot grow or, something like that.
Yeah. If they're from Washington, if they came across a pot grow, they'd be like, whatever. Maybe, hey, can I get a bud? It's probably what they'd be saying.
Yeah, it just depends on. I mean, I do know in federal lands, they actually have the Mexican cartels will actually have pot grows, and I mean, it depends on the force who it is. I mean, they'll kill you. They got AKs, but I mean, I'm sure it depends on who it is. But especially like a meth lab, I mean, because that's the same amount of sentences you would get for crack. So, you're facing a whole lot of time if they stumble across that.
Oh yeah. Yep. I see we lost Rob D. His internet probably dropped. or he ended up in the wrong neighborhood. You know, he's got those New York plates and he's in PA.
He's got 9mm. He'll be okay.
Yeah. It's like, so I have the G23. And a lot of people, if you have like a 19, you have 2 more rounds than I have. I'm pretty sure those 2 rounds aren't going to make much more of a difference, especially when mine's giving a bigger hole.
At that point, when you have that much capacity, even statistically speaking, if you've gotten to the point you dump that, you're winging it. You know, you're mag dumping. That's what you're doing. You're mag dumping. You're getting to cover. I mean, that's like asking, would you rather have your house hit with an F5 tornado in Iowa, or would you rather get slammed with a Category 5 hurricane in Jacksonville? I mean, so yeah, that's minuscule enough when you have that amount of ammo at that point, you know?
Yep. The difference is 13 rounds of 40 or 15 rounds of 9.
And you can always get a conversion barrel if you want to pop some 9.
Yep. Or you can run the 357 SIG.
Yeah, after that dude at that church in Texas wasted the active shooter down there, apparently 357 SIG just got a magical rebirth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've always liked the round, but I didn't like it enough to pay the price difference.
Yeah, for me, when I could get like that 155 grain Underwood load, I mean, you're packing almost 600 foot-pounds of energy, 155 grain at 1,300 feet per second. Most 357 SIG, sadly, isn't loaded to much more than, 1,300 feet per second. I mean, my 9mm plus P plus is loaded 124 grain, a little bit over 1,300 feet per second out of my barrel. That's about what the 125 grain 357 SIG is usually loaded to. It's unfortunate it can be loaded hotter, and it, has a little bit more of a delayed expansion, and then you've got the massive cost. So I'd probably prefer a hot loaded bigger bullet with a 40.
Well, you can go with, if you go with like Minuteman, you can get a 357 SIG, 125 grain, jacketed hollow point at 1,480 feet per second. Or you could go with the 115, which is actually traveling 5 feet per second slower.
Yeah, I think that's about the same as what, and I think that's about the same as what Underwood does too. So yeah, you're cranking up around, what is it, probably over 600 foot-pounds, I think, with that. It's up there. But I mean, that was basically designed to replicate that legendary 125 grain 357 Magnum load that the cops used to carry, like an old Model 10s. Because those things were known as a zapper.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and like Uplift out there, who is kind of just joined in, he says, I don't see the point in bottleneck pistol rounds. Yeah, there are some good bottlenecks, and since it's getting close to 6:30. But I mean, there's some neck down rounds that perform pretty good out of pistols, and that were designed for your pistol. I mean, your 7.62 by 25. That's a nasty little round.
Then there's that, was it the 22 TCM? They took a 9mm and bottlenecked it down to 22, basically. I think Rock Island and maybe a couple others make guns for that. I mean, I think you're getting a 22 round around 2,000 plus feet per second with that.
Yeah, that's not playing around.
No, and I do think that probably would have some major ballistic effect. I know that where temporary wound cavitation actually does result in permanent damage is typically a little bit over 2,000 feet per second. But I mean, I've shot like with 223 or 22 Magnum out of a very long barrel. I mean, results don't lie when you shoot a chunk of meat submerged in liquid, or it's doing more damage than the radius of the bullet itself. There's just no argument with that. I hear that's a big problem I constantly hear with handgun ballistics is like, oh, it's only in the direct path, permanent wound cavity. I'm like, I understand temporary wound cavitation, but I'm afraid, like, I used to be a chemical compounder, and I work specifically looking at the physical effects of different viscosities of liquids. And that's exactly what it is. It's hydrodynamics. And it depends on the amount of energy, the velocity, and what it does. But it can cause permanent damage, even in a handgun round, but you need 2,000 feet per second. It can cause a permanent damage radius greater than the bullet itself.
Well, yeah, and then you also have your shock. When that bullet, that temporary cavity is forcing out, it's also causing ripple effects, and other organs are being damaged by those, like shock waves.
Yeah, and one of the arguments I've heard against like hot loaded ammo, you might as well do standard pressure 9 or whatever, is maybe you'll get a little bit better hard barrier penetration, but it's not going to make any difference as far as stopping a threat. Because people say, I know this is a bit of a gruesome topic, but like people say, all it's going to do is more rapid exsanguination. In other words, bleeding out. And no matter what you do, that's going to take a few minutes. That's not having anything to do with stopping the threat. It's just shot placement, and it has to be a vital. Well, I think that's not necessarily true, because it does that more explosive effects, like 22 TCM, 357 SIG, something like that. It does cause nerve damage, muscle damage, and causes physical paralysis, besides the shock and the psychological and even physiological effects.
Well, I mean, so I guess the greatest way of comparison of something like that would be an explosion happens. You may not be at ground zero when that explosion happens. Maybe you're, 200 yards away. You still feel that concussion, that explosive force hitting you. Now, you don't actually have to be in direct, point ground zero of where that, for it to have killed you, or seriously hurt you. You hear about like TBI, the traumatic brain injury, because of those concussive forces. And I'm going to say thank you to Carolina for throwing Mr. Foss's channel link out there. Since
I really
Mr. Foss likes to throw everyone else's out there, but he doesn't really throw his out there. So thank you guys for supporting each other.
I did it all for the cookie.
Did it all for the cookie. What? The cookie. What?
Yep. So the link you threw out there, Mr. Carolina, is that for your new video, or?
No, that's the live unboxing I did earlier today. On the Alpha Outpost. But like I mentioned before in the Tap Pack, I'm doing it a little bit different now. Instead of giving a box away every month, what I'm gonna do is send that box to smaller channels like us to give the opportunity to check out any of these boxes and do a unboxing video on their channel.
Hell yeah.
So the link that I throw out there is to the unboxing live video to the Alpha Outpost, one of the past boxes, the torch, and the box that I have in there in the video as well that I show at the end is going to be one previous. It's called The First Blood and related to the Rambo movie First Blood, and it has a cool knife in it, and I'm going to send that to somebody. Kind of gave little rules of, to qualify some channels. I'll pretty much say just comment down below in the video what channel you think you should get this box to. Don't have to be one I'm subscribed to or anything like that, but just only requirement would be is channels smaller than 3,000 subscribers on down.
I promote Mr. Kingpin.
Well, just like I said, just go to that video and comment down below.
I will definitely be doing that.
But if it comes down to just one vote for whatever channel people put in there, or we have a tie or whatever, then I'll decide who will get it. Then I'll contact that channel and get the address information and send it to them.
That's cool.
Yep. Because I know Kingpin likes to help out a lot of channels, even the small channels and stuff. And he's out there in a lot of different chats, like promoting everyone's channel and throwing links out there to other people's channels and stuff. So he's always out there trying to help.
Oh yeah,
that's the reason why. The reason I like.
Well, like I said,
to support
like I
him.
said, I'm gonna do this every month. So just not every month will be the same way. But this month I wanted to give the opportunity to the people that are watching who they can pick. And next month it'll be a Tac Pack box, and I'll choose another channel.
Hell yeah. So I see we have Mr. G-Wad, who's also a pretty good guy out there, putting in a lot of hard work, promoting the 2A community. So, welcome.
And he's not late unless we're leaving.
Nope. I see we got Ozzy out there, so welcome, Ozzy.
Thought I heard dog barking.
Yep. So, Mr. Ozark, you got any videos that you want to be promoting?
Well, I just did. Let's see. Last night I put out on the process of indoctrination. I think it's important for everybody to know. Let's see. There's also some really good channels if you guys don't know them. Jet001. He puts out some cool stuff. Just did a go bag. He has a ton of cool content in his go bag. He goes out to the desert Nevada all the time, I guess BLM land, to go shooting. So he's got some pretty neat gear in there. Gave me some good ideas. And then today I just put out one. Sometimes I'll just put ones out covering the news and how I think it relates to, current events and geopolitical and current and our national situation. Right now, today I put out one about the climate change conference, and they're using that to try to force international rules against any country's national sovereignty, and specifically against the U.S. So that's just kind of what I've been covering recently.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I know. I watched your indoctrination video, and yeah, there was a lot of good points in there, and I commented. So
Yeah, and I think I got to you. There's sometimes and maybe it happens to you guys too, I'll not get a comment. It doesn't show up on there. And then all of a sudden later, I click to watch the video itself, and I scroll through, and suddenly there's a comment. And I didn't get the notification. Then there's sometimes like I have to go to the YouTube studio, and whether it doesn't like a word somebody said, sometimes it's nothing controversial really, and they hold the comments for review or something like that. It doesn't tell you about it.
yeah, I get a lot of the comments held for review.
You can, when you upload your video, you can change the setting so it lets all the comments through.
Okay, yeah, I'll need to check into that on my studio. I bet it's probably in settings.
'Cause
I don't worry about.
Yeah, that happened to me. I had a couple of those, and I could see them, but when I would click on the comment, it would say that it's not available. And I think it was Midnight told me, that to double check that. And so every time I upload, I have to remember to change that setting because it sets automatically to hold like offensive comments for review. And then even if you go back and change it later, you can't. It won't let you do anything with those comments that were held.
No, like if you go into your studio and there's comments that are held, and you click that they're acceptable, they show up. At least they do on my end. They'll go and then you authorize that. Okay.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
really. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I had to get a new phone, so I had to re-download the app. And then the funny thing was when I re-downloaded the app and went back to the held for review, it suddenly popped up all these old held for review comments from, months and months ago that were not on there before. So YouTube's playing some funny games. But yeah, I want to try to change the settings to allow all the comments if I can.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Foss.
For some reason, they don't let you set that as your default is to let everything through. So, like I said, each time you go in, you have to change that setting.
The only setting I see that ever changes when I'm like uploading videos, but I don't upload a hell of a lot of videos. I need to start doing a little more. Is the age? Was this made for kids or stuff like that? That's the only one that I seem to always have to make sure I'm paying attention to, because they'll default is if you don't answer that question, they'll shut your comments off for that video.
Yeah, and it's weird. I don't remember. I think I remember like sometimes when I'll upload, it says something on there. You're required to notify if it's not for kids, whatever. That's weird. And so far I haven't had the comments shut off. But I haven't seen an option for, I guess you can go into settings when you're uploading and then change it to that. But I don't know if from what I saw, it looks like it sets everything on your channel to 18 and up or nothing on your channel 18 and up. It's like it's only one or the other. I don't know if I can do it with each individual video, but
Yeah,
I'm not really worried about it on my channel because I don't curse. I specifically deliberately keep it clean. Although, inevitably the topics we cover sometimes, aren't something that, it's adult, really heavy topics,
I always check that to make sure that it's set right, and it's always already set to 18 plus or whatever the setting is.
Yeah, when I switched over and so I have a InShot video maker that I use on my mobile to do like all my video editing and everything. And so when I upload my video through them, pretty much all my YouTube settings that I have are saved. And so then I just, you can either make it so it goes live immediately, or you can hold it. You can put it in a like in limbo so no one else sees it. And so I always make sure I click on that, so then I can go back in through my YouTube studio and add, like any end cards, add channel links and stuff like that through the YouTube studio. Before I let it go live. I don't know if anyone else does that, or
I don't know. I just
Or
do all
take
my editing on the desktop and then upload it. And while it's uploading, then I'll go in and do all the settings. So usually I can get all that done before it's done uploading.
yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I've actually started uploading before, and then while it's doing that, like you said, and then I'll go into YouTube Studio, and then you can edit, your hashtags, your description, stuff like that.
Yeah, like I do like all my description, my hashtags, my thumbnails, and everything. I can add all that in when I'm uploading. But like if I want to say Carolina does a video on the same subject that I'm doing, and so I decide I want to link my video to his, so that maybe the people that watched my video will then go and watch his video. Sometimes you can kind of get a little traction that way. I know Ghost was talking to me a lot about that.
That's something I've wondered about, kind of like YouTube etiquette. Is it typically you want to ask channels permission before you like promote them, even if you're just linking a similar video or whatever? Usually I've done that.
I mean,
I don't think it should be no problem, because YouTube gives you the option to link to anybody, but the only thing they're doing is tracking more people to their video.
I mean, it's not like you're, when you say you did a 320 video, a P320 video, and I have a 320 video, so you put a link to my video. The only way I'm going to really know that you did that, if I don't watch your channel, is in my studio. If I go in and look at my analytics, where it comes from, like where your views for a certain video, like did it come from Bing? Did it come from, title search or whatever? That's the only way you're going to really notice that it came from another YouTuber. And it's not going to tell you. At least I'm not sure. that it's going to tell you exactly what YouTuber, did it. And it's not like because you link to my channel that you're going to then get any like real benefits, except maybe you might get a little you might get a little traction. Your video will pop up because it's linked to a larger video. I mean, maybe that will happen, but I'm not. And a lot of us smaller channels, it's kind of a way to help everybody else out. Hey, go check out his video.
Yeah, I would think it would be okay if you're just pointing out somebody else, and not using them to actively promote yourself, so you're not clout chasing.
Yeah.
If it,
Or, I mean, go ahead.
kind of like trying to make it seem like you guys are, working together or something like that when you're not. But because if I mention somebody, like I think I've mentioned Buck's channel, or because either he had mentioned something and then I made a video based on a conversation, then I'll put a link to their channel saying Buck asked me to do this. I'll put a link to his channel down below and then do my video. But I'm not saying if Buck was a huge channel, like a million sub channel, where I'm trying to ride his tailcoat, his coattails, and that would be a little different.
It sounds like that sounds like the hip hop world or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do with gun channels. We need to start fake beefs with each other.
Some your channel,
Sorry, what was that? It kind of cut out.
I'd say some of those larger channels do that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, and then sometimes I almost wonder. Sometimes I almost wonder if they're doing it as banter or whatever. As just kind of a clout thing or whatever, or just to start a beef. And then there's time, and then I'm watching them, and then I'm like, oh wow, that just happened. You just crossed that line. I'm like, yeah, that wasn't an arranged beef. That happened.
Yeah, I see where you've been joined up. TB, welcome. He's a fellow Oregonian out here. Does a lot of videos, for like rally videos and stuff, and pretty good stuff. I met him through Solo Yacker, so he's a pretty good guy. He's another 3%er. So, yeah, I know, like, when Foss and I did a 5-shot video, or when I was tagged in a video by him and by Wheeled and Well Armed, I didn't, for some reason, I didn't get Wheeled's notification on that video, or I would have given him some credit in there like I did Foss, where I put his channel logo up in the video saying, hey, I was called out, so this is a response to, Mr. DM Foss. And I know, like, Ghost has said many a times that if he has a video out there that you're doing a topic on, he doesn't really care if you put that video link in there. So, well, we're at the 3/4 hour mark streaming. You guys have any more topics, or do we want to go ahead and start doing our end plugs and wrapping this up for the night?
I don't have anything.
Go ahead, Ozark.
I'm pretty much fresh out of topics, I think.
I think we had a pretty good discussion here tonight, and I am glad that y'all were able to jump on the panel and get some good thoughts and opinions and help out with the Constitution. We kind of did the Constitution and streamed off on some other chats at the same time. So I hope everyone enjoyed the show, and thank you again to my co-host extraordinaire for showing up fashionably late this evening. I understand. Mr. Foss, go ahead and give us your plugs.
Yeah, I was working on a video for B channel, so but I put a link out for Kingpin's channel. So if you have not checked out his channel, check out his channel. He does a lot for a lot of channels and never asks for anything in return. And he is at 992 subs. He's 8 away from 1,000. And if anyone deserves to get 1,000, it's Kingpin.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, we definitely need to get him over that 1,000 sub mark.
And check out anybody that's been on the panel today. There's links up a little bit earlier. And sorry, I'm just trying to get one thing done here while I'm talking. And check out anybody that's been out in the chat. You never know, what you'll find, or start a channel yourself. Maybe somebody wants to hear what you have to say. You never know. And if you're looking for stickers or patches, G-Webs has a website, gear websites, that sells lots of cool stuff. And there we go. Check out the link that's out in the chat. See if you find anything neat that you can't live without. He does a good job of promoting the Second Amendment, and he's a staunch believer in it and works hard.
And remember, on Fridays, it's Free Packs Fridays. Just saying. So, he has a question for you, Foss. He says, is the B channel called BM Foss?
No.
Okay, Mr. Ozark. Thank you. You've been here for the almost 4 hours.
And thank you for having me on, brother. Appreciate it. Really enjoyed the chat. And yeah, there's definitely, a lot of important topics like this out there. I love it that, we're actually doing something good. We're trying to fight for, educate, preserve our freedom, keep it going for next generations. And then at the same time, talking about, common loves and hobbies and things we all really enjoy and have in common. If anybody wants to make videos, or they're having trouble making videos or shy about it, I would just strongly encourage people to put videos out there. And if they want to know what it's about, what is it that you have to say that not everybody else is saying right now? You know, what is it when you see a topic, a current event, something going on? You're like, why aren't people saying this? Because that's I think everyone's unique perspective, what they have to offer to the conversation, and you know, just crank some stuff out there. I mean, if 20 people watch it, you know, it's 20 more people that have shared good information and are getting a new perspective on things, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yep.
And
So
and also, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I totally want to get Kingpin to 1,000. Let's promote the tar out of him. He's an awesome channel.
do you have any upcoming videos that you want to promote that's going to be coming out pretty soon, or?
Yeah, there was let's see, a topic. Interesting thing I've discovered actually in my research for this, you know, thing about how Google's kind of skewing the results a little bit of the Second Amendment. I'm going to show specifically screenshots, I think, about how they did that. And then also how they're adding, quote unquote, adding context by, like they did with one of my videos, showing a little Wikipedia thing on there. And how a lot of those Wikipedia sources and even the fact checks aren't really facts. And sometimes they claim they'll just add context, but really they're kind of trying to mislead the audience. So I think that's what I'll probably be covering next.
So, funny thing you mentioned on the fact check. I know, like, Guns and Gadgets did a video a few days ago about the GOA suing Facebook and Kamala Harris over using a fact check company out of France. It is a media organization based out of France. And so they're going after them for campaign and voter interference and trying to get, I think it's the FCC involved in it, and some of the voting issues because of the fact they're, you know, interfering with elections. So that information is out there also. Mr. Carolina EDC, what do you got going on?
A lot of stuff. Yeah, I'm working on a lot of videos, upcoming videos. So, yep, I'll be pumping a lot of videos here in a few weeks. Try to get them all done before Christmas, hopefully. But, yeah, thank you for the invite as usual. Sorry for earlier, just technical difficulties, but made it back. And yeah, check out, just like DM Fall says, check everybody out, Kingpin and all them, especially DM Falls, yourself, and Ozar. Just make sure you check everybody out, promote everybody, check them on all social medias if you have them. And like I was saying earlier, go to my I'll post on live video that I did today, and comment on the video what channel you like me to send that first blood box to, so they can get a chance to take a look at it. As well, follow me on all social medias. I have put new links, coupon codes, all kind of different things. Facebook, especially Instagram. Trying to usually get people to use all my coupon codes, because that's the best way to support the channel financially, as well. You know that YouTube demonetizes all our videos pretty much, so that'd be the best way to help us as a channel. I did just recently added a donation button on my Instagram. That's basically everything that goes into the channel for new equipment, cameras, and all that good stuff that we all need to keep bringing some content to everybody. But as usual, thank you for the invite. Again, I appreciate it, and hopefully we do this again next Saturday.
Oh yeah, we'll be back next Saturday. So I got a couple things I'm gonna plug before I get out of here. I had a company reach out to me to do a product review. So I will be doing that product review, Yes, it's being donated to the channel. No, I am not paying a dime for the product. I will be putting that in the video, all that information. So that video should be coming up after I get. Yep, yeah. I sold out, man. Now, and I explained to the company point blank. I'm going to be completely honest. If it's trash, it's going to be called. It's going to be, you know, I'm not going to lie. You know, just because I get something because it's given to the channel, it's not going to be. You're going to get a glowing review. So
That's the way it should be, anyways.
yep.
Yep, and that's what they should, they know to expect too. What they should. We're looking forward to that.
So again, I still have a mail call that I have to do. I'm 99% sure it's my shirt that I won from Patriot in the Dark. I've kind of had some other stuff going on, and I haven't got to doing that video yet, but it will come out shortly. I do promise that. So, again, hope to see you all next Saturday, and thanks everyone for being out in the crowd. And like and subscribe to everybody who's been on the panel. And one other is the poor conservative. You know, he was out in the crowd. He tried jumping on. We were having some technical issues. But if you have Instagram and you are not on his 2A Brotherhood IG page, find him. You know, he's out there promoting the Constitution, and you know, I've always been. I call myself a constitutionalist, and so reading a lot of his IG posts, it was kind of one of the, you know what, we need to do a show on the Constitution and just get a bunch of us together and just discuss, and so we can see how each person kind of interprets what the United States Constitution says to them. Not only does it what it says on paper, but what does it say to each person, and how do they interpret it? And I think we need to try doing some more of these. So again, thank you all, and have a great evening.
Bye bye.